In a time when finding the truth and knowing your own power are more important than ever, there is a set of lessons that can change your life and help you see and understand yourself in new ways. In The Art of Conscious Living, this spiritual journey shows you how your every thought, word and feeling affects your life. It is a remarkable journey toward bringing out your hidden talents, getting past challenges, and manifesting a life with meaning and unity. You have the creative power inside you that can lead you down a way lit by old knowledge and new discoveries. Each step on this path is a chance to grow, heal, and change. You will learn how to sail through the waves of your mind, understand the language of your soul, and create a world that shows off the best of who you are on this trip. You will find truth, happiness, and knowledge on this trip. It is an adventure that will change your ideas about what is possible and encourage you to live in peace with yourself and the world. Through each lesson, you will learn more about the fabric of life and how the connection of everything affects our daily lives. You are about to go through a change that will affect every part of your being and reveal new ways to live a fuller, more important life. This call is for people who are brave enough to not only dream of a better world, but also to build their own growth and happiness. Universal friendship and metaphysics. My first lesson from Saint-Germain. The state of awareness you are at. Each person understands and agrees with different facts to a different degree. Some people believe certain things while rejecting others and refusing to admit they exist. You have the power to shape your own events over time, which is how you reach this level of understanding and acceptance. The level of awareness is like a ladder with many steps. Every person on earth is on one of these steps, no matter how high or low it is, and their truth is the level of understanding they have reached. There are many spiritual paths to inner growth, such as theories, faiths, and occult schools. All of these are good and important, and they should all be valued. A metaphysician always acts in a kind and accepting way, and he or she doesn't get involved in religious or spiritual arguments or debates. They don't ban anything, and they don't think they are smarter or more knowledgeable than other people. If you want to live in peace with other people and avoid being hurt by pride, you need to understand the scale and the level of consciousness well. By the spiritual pride that makes you hate what you think is less important than you. There is nothing better or worse in this sense, because these are just levels inside you that you can get past with more knowledge and hard work. The word for metaphysics. Being beyond the physical in metaphysics means going beyond the physical world and real things. Metaphysics teaches truths that exist and are, but can't be seen. Even though they're unseen, they have an impact on the world around us, because the invisible world is the source of everything that manifests. For example, we know that energy doesn't come from the machine we see, but from something else that we can't see. There are many facts that can't be seen or felt. For example, we believe in and accept things like electricity, energy, heat, life and love that can't be seen, just like we can't see the ideas that make things real. There are realities besides what we see. Practices needed to make a statement from the outside. Instead, spiritual awareness and development happen from the inside out, not the other way around. Before the outside changes, the inside has to change first. One of the most freeing truths about pain is that everything starts in the mind, and that each person makes his own fate, life circumstances, bad luck, and good luck. He is responsible for everything. In the heart of every person, not in the sky, is God. There are no sins, only mistakes that can be fixed. There is no hell that lasts forever. Say good things to yourself if you want your life to get better. Get rid of the old world of pain and limits. Today is the start of something new. Everything comes from the present moment. Second lesson. This is what the Saint-Germain Brotherhood says. This is the psychic level you have now reached. The Saint-Germain Brotherhood. You should know that you need to be very aware to get to this level because it has the best information the world can give you right now. We are being taught directly from the light planes by Saint Germain and all the other risen masters of the White Brotherhood. Spiritually, these masters run the world and have been taking care of it for hundreds of years. Without conscious direction or order, nothing would be or exist. One of the elevated masters is Jesus, who is the master. It was their real home, Earth. It was a school for them to move up to a higher level and to higher planes, which all humans must do, no matter how low they are. The masters can no longer take on a bodily form because that is against the laws of development. Instead, they love and serve the earth from above. This message came from Saint-Germain through Maria de la Concepción Mendez, also known as Connie Mendez. She was born with this special purpose and did it correctly. She died in Miami on November 26, 1979. Her will allowed for her body to be burned and brought to Venezuela, where all of her work that has been seen around the world was done. People all over the world know about and read his books. It never got old for her to teach and spread these truths through media and talks. Many people also know her as a musician, writer, artist, painter, and in many other ways that show how complex she is. From the planes of light, she is still helping. Connie stopped believing in occultism and wrote these facts down so that everyone could understand them. He always told people to keep practicing them in their daily lives because without awareness, there is no progress. In 1945, Connie started the spiritual branch of the Saint-Germain Brotherhood in the city of Caracas. Today, the sisterhood is still doing important spiritual work to get the world ready for the change that needs to happen and to help as many people as possible reach a higher level. The new stage of rebuilding, growth and development is producing wonderful results. Free lessons are given in the form of talks, notices, books, songs and references. The teachers or guides do their jobs without any personal gain or interest in doing so. There are no rituals or events. It is a free and broad message that doesn't need any rules or standards other than an open mind. Students don't have to sign up, pay fees, or fulfill any other responsibilities in order to attend the classes. People who work together financially to help the light or make any other kind of personal effort do so voluntarily. The Saint-Germain Brotherhood accepts all levels of awareness and doesn't fight against anything. One of its rules is that members should not get into arguments or let this kind of behavior happen in class. The kids follow the light, which has nothing to do with black magic, spiritualism, or witches. There is no religion in us. We don't act like one. The Brotherhood's main office is in Caracas. At this level of metaphysics, students quickly raise their consciousness, make their life and affairs better, and get rid of illnesses, conflicts, and mistakes they've made in the past by practicing the law of mentalism all the time. This is because everything starts in the mind and grows there. Individual change manifests as a result of this practical lesson, despite its simplicity and high level. In order to join the Saint-Germain Brotherhood, there are no requirements, as we have already said. It's not required to sign up, pay for classes, sign papers or other paperwork, or get a special card. You only need to be interested in this teaching on a personal level and go to the talks regularly, which are open to everyone. You've only made a promise to your inner God, who has led you to this point, even if you don't know it. By showing up to class and being interested, you have promised your inner divinity that you will take care of your spiritual growth in a clear and determined way. Something very important and deep is going on here. Your better self has been waiting too long to be able to show you the truth, help you understand it, and tame your will so you don't give up or back down. There is a lot of people who fail to do what they need to and then fall behind in class because they didn't go. The careless ones don't get very far and while there is no compromise, here are some things to keep in mind. First, get to class on time and don't miss any. Being late is annoying and can cause problems for other people. Because training is done slowly, plan to be on time and not miss any classes. Absentees don't fully understand things and have trouble moving forward. The negativity stops and reverses any good work that has been done. Second, keep teaching in your everyday life. This is called realization. Once you store your information and only use it for educational purposes, you don't get very far. These lessons need work and determination, so someone who just gets them and doesn't want to go further doesn't make much progress. Third, do not let other people be a bother to you. We told you from the start about the problems that followers of the light often face. The negative polarity tries to get rid of them and then gives them problems to keep their attention on the outside world and forget about the light. If someone usually gets in the way of a student, that student doesn't know it and thinks, "Once I get out of here, I'll go to the talks." This is where the mistake is, because there are only two ways to get there: light or looks. You will see how quickly the problems can be fixed if you choose the light. But if you choose looks, the problems will get worse because of the attention you put on them, and you will never be able to get out of them. When a student feels like someone is trying to get his attention, he should mentally say, "the light," and then "the appearances." As you go to class and do the treatments, the outside things will go away. Do not let the outside world take over your life. You are in charge of your own world. Third lesson, what we think forms us, and this is how we show it. Learn how to live. Anyone can see how stressed and unhappy most people are by just looking at them in any city or place on earth. On the bus, in the office, at work, or on the street. There are tight, rushed faces everywhere, with worry and fear lines, angry and scared lines, and tired faces with signs of hopelessness and pain. There aren't many faces in this mosaic that show happiness, satisfaction, or hope. The world is sad because people haven't learned how to live or deal with problems, because it has focused on the bad and damaging, making it bigger, which gives it more power and makes life full of disasters. You can't learn how to live in any school or college in the world. There are a lot of studies out there, but most of the time, painful and hard situations help us learn. The lack of understanding about the right way to live, on the other hand, wastes energy, life, and man's skills and abilities, especially his ability to think, feel, and speak. People fall into anger and pain because of this misuse. They also get into many other problems that could have been avoided if they had learned from light and right knowledge. The earth we live on has always been a world of redemption, where people come to make amends with life and learn from their mistakes. The earth is a classroom of the cosmos, a school in the vastness of space where important lessons for personal growth are taught. Everything in the world up to now has been bad because people have been living in the wrong way. All of that has been given away now that the Aquarian age, the age of the great light, has begun. Every person has an infinite number of chances to get ahead, escape their unhappy life, and reach higher levels. The casting of light onto Earth from space right now is amazing and unique, and it has never been like this before. This is happening because a stage has been reached, a big circle is coming to an end, and the Earth and all the people who live on it need to graduate or move up to a higher level. Planets like Earth are part of the solar system, and there is a general rise. There has been a pause of more than 5,000 years. The circle is now ending because we waited too long. We will learn the art of life and how to use the power of thought and feeling correctly in these philosophical classes. We will also learn how to use all the other human abilities that were given to us for our own good and happiness. How do you have creative power? What the Bible says about people is that they were made in God's image. This is not talking about the body. It's talking about the skills and abilities that a person gets from God out of love as a child. Man has all of God's skills, but they are only potential. He has to work to grow them. He doesn't get anything if he doesn't work for it and earn it. A person is like an inactive seed that has the potential to grow into a whole plant, complete with root, stem, leaf, flower, and fruit. However, all of this has to happen over time, with hard work and persistence. Like a plant needs water to grow, people need to learn, experience, and come to their own conclusions through hard work. The most powerful thing God has given people is called the power of the word. It is a huge creative force that comes from what we think, say, and feel. People have the power to make their own lives, good or bad, so they need to learn how to use these great tools well. He will be in strife, pain, and unhappiness if he doesn't use them well. People make the conditions in which they live, even if they are unaware of their power to do so. They are both the maker and the captain of their own ship. Situations never play with a person. The person is always in charge of everything around him. He has something that he should take, so why doesn't he? He thinks that what's outside is stronger than him because he doesn't pay attention to it or use his power. He lets lies take over, turning himself into a slave instead of a master as he should be. The right way to use the word. The word is a strong force that comes from thinking and makes things happen. It's also like a seal that gives life to everything it touches. It's a double-edged sword because it makes both good and bad things happen and manifests them in life. No matter what we say, the world around us will either be happy or sad, because each person is responsible for and creates his own world. One is the only one responsible for everything that goes wrong. When the word is used correctly, great things happen and things are nice. Correct usage means always speaking happily and holding back any negative, harmful, or unpleasant words or phrases that could hurt someone else or yourself. When you don't control what you say, like when you criticize, insult, offend, make fun of, or otherwise talk badly about other people, that's called incorrect use of speech. It's not good to talk just for the sake of talking, and saying anything without thinking about what will come out is bad in many ways. Consider that the word is a command that, whether good or bad, manifests itself in the world. You need to learn how to control your words so that you only say positive, helpful things that make other people feel good. Worry not about making your life terrible because you say bad things and can't control what you say. Power of thought. It's called the law of mentalism, and it says that everything is mind, and that you are what you think you are. You are where your mind is, and what you think about becomes you. Mental power needs to be controlled because it is the most powerful power in the world. Everything good that happens to us depends on how well we use it, but everything bad that happens to us depends on how badly we use it. We can all think, and every time we do, we make something. Things that show up on the outside are thoughts. Depending on how they are guided, thoughts and ideas can turn into real things that bring happiness or bad luck. It doesn't make it okay to abuse mental power because you don't know you have it or don't care that you do. The state that comes after will still be bad. People often say that the mind is like a machine that is always making things that are sent out into the world. You can do well if you learn how to use your mind well. Lesson 4. The power to create comes from what you think and feel. The power to be creative comes from two strong tools, thought and feeling. Everything in the world began when thoughts and feelings came together. Thoughts carry the mental pattern or picture that the mind projects. When a thought is strong, the atoms that make up the material substance or form gather around it. Finally, the force of emotion gives the idea life, making it into a real thing. It is impossible for something to exist in the outside world that has not first been thought and felt. It's very important to keep your feelings in check and in sync. If you don't, energy that you can't control will flow through them and cause problems for both yourself and other people. Angry, vengeful, hateful, selfish, resentful, and other negative emotions should be avoided at all costs because they make our lives and the lives of those around us very difficult. Any bad emotion causes pain and damage, and when there is no love, it leads to separation. The feeling has 90% of the power to make things happen, which means it has the most energy to make things happen, whether they are good or bad. Thought turns ideas into things because it is a moving force that can make things and conditions real. You have thought about work, love, marriage, business success or failure, how people look, their health or illness, your economic and social life, and many other things before they happened. You may have done these things in this life or one before. Something will never happen in your life if you don't believe it or accept it. The things you are and the way you live are based on your ideas and views about other people and yourself. It is important to know that you have power and how to use it in a good way. You can now start to make your life better and be successful in anything you want if you use your mind well. Everything that exists is caused by thoughts, and conditions are what make things real in the real world. We will be tomorrow what we think and believe we are today. Mind and feelings are what make up each person's world. The creative mind power is like a bow and arrow because it hits its mark every time. The mind, bow, with energy, arrow or thought. The power in the driving hand, feeling, is what shoots this arrow at the target, which is materialization and manifestation. This hand has the most power for the end result. When we think, a magnetic current like a ray of light comes out of us and can have a big effect on other people and reach far away, with no limits on length or place. Thoughts from other people have a big effect on people, especially if they are sent out with a lot of force, able to get through any resistance that stands in their way. This is true for persuading other people. Forced in this way, on the other hand, will bring bad luck to the person doing it because it goes against their free will. Thoughts are our children, the things we made, and they do what they were made to do. Ideas that are good and ideas that are bad have different tones. The good ones are clear and see-through. A person who thinks and acts positively gives off peace and unity. Their aura is clear and their emotions are bright. He is easy to get along with and makes people feel good by showing kindness. He surrounds himself with things he likes. Negative thoughts are thick and dark. They move from one mind to another, giving each one more energy and power and making monsters like hate, war, materialism, and revenge float around in the air. It's hard to get along with someone who always thinks badly because their vibes make other people afraid and suspicious. They also draw to them things that are like them, and they live in an uncomfortable environment. The law of the circle says that all thoughts, good and bad, go back to their creator, but they come back in a bigger form because they stuck to the energy of similar thoughts that they came across. So, it's not a good idea to think, feel, or speak badly, because it leads back to the source and makes it very hard to control your thoughts and feelings. Today, it's very important to be able to control your thoughts, feelings, and words so that you don't keep causing harm and disorder or making the world more poisonous than it already is. The person needs to work hard to get out of his bad situation and rise above the level of the people. This can only be done by training the ego, which is the outer awareness, to be in full control of its thoughts and feelings. No one can get rid of limitations, pain, or conflict in their life until they learn how to control their thoughts and feelings. It takes constant work because some of our thoughts are free and can't be managed. To be able to change your life for the better is worth all the work and time. Problems like not having enough money and being limited by people are caused by old, harmful ways of thinking and feeling that are hard to break because they have been around for so long. The same is true for health troubles and other issues. As long as people's thoughts aren't at peace with each other, nothing good can happen in their lives. To balance emotions, one needs to be calm, which is hard to do because people are emotional and hasty, and they can blow up over anything. Being emotionally stable means being in charge of your energy, which should only be used for positive, good, and happy things. For mental growth, people need to work on their own flaws, vices, and interests. Correction of the self is the only way to gain control and happiness in daily life. The personality, or outer self, needs to learn to follow the rules set by the higher self, or God, inside you. The law of free will, on the other hand, says that you choose who runs your life, your personality or your better self, which is divine presence. Fifth lesson, being calm is based on correcting your own emotions. It's hard to fix your emotions because when your feelings are stirred up, they fight in a way that makes the holy energy you live and move impossible to control. Every person on earth can choose to look toward the light or the joys of the senses, capitalism and the world of the senses, which is full of beautiful things and sounds. Satisfying your interests is the easier way to go because you don't have to think about it or fix yourself. All habits of thinking, feeling and acting need to be changed right away. Self-control is the key to happiness and success. The person shouldn't let distracting outside things take his attention away and should always be on guard. Stop putting up with the bad, push it away, and don't put poison in everything you do. Energy is being let go, and it's ready for you to show it like an explosion. It will rush in and cause a lot of problems and tensions if it is not managed. This is what happens when feelings aren't under control. They cause damage. It's very upsetting to feel irritability, conflict, greed, anger, hate, and payback. Stay away from all fights and arguments. You must not give in to outside threats anymore. You must stay at peace. Controlling your thoughts is just as important as controlling your feelings. Don't accept any more thoughts of conflict, hate, fear, or anything else that is bad or wrong. Allow yourself to think of new, good, and happy things. You will get past your problems and limits as you broaden your mind. Your life will get better because everything starts in the mind and is made there. First, there has to be information, then acceptance of the truth, and finally realizing it in the real world. The more you know, the more deeply you can understand, and the more you can overcome. Putting this lesson into practice, mental control. This week, don't listen to any bad advice other people give you. Do not fight or argue, and stay out of trouble. If you hear something that bothers you, say this silently. This is not right. It does not interest me. I do not accept it. I reject it, and I forget it. I dissolve and consume it by the power of light. Say this another time. Only the perfection of God comes out of me. I allow nothing but right, good, harmonious, and constructive thoughts and words. I reject all that is inferior and disturbing. I open my mind from today to the new thought, word control. This last decree is about the thoughts that come from your mind, which is bad at looking at what is bad and inconvenient. People need to train their minds to change their focus from bad to good and only see what is nice, right, and good. It's not good to believe in something that is bad, look at it all the time, and say bad things over and over again. Think the good, and it will be given to you, Connie Mendez says in one of her books. This is because what you think about brings into your life what you believe, talk about, and comment on with other people. When you think bad thoughts, they will come true. In the same way, when you think good thoughts, they will also come true. Emotional control. Say, I always keep myself in a calm and cheerful attitude, no matter what happens. I live in peace, and I am at peace. I control my emotions. Self-control exercises for the mind and emotions. If you want to rest and slow down, you must first learn to quiet your mind, emotions, and body. People often call this relaxation. At first it's hard because you can't control your ideas and feelings. Some parts of the body, like the face, shoulders, lower jaw, and legs, are tense. Relaxing by focusing on every part of the body, from head to toe, is not something we suggest, because it takes too long and is not needed. Having your back straight while sitting in a comfortable position is enough. You might fall asleep if you lie down or lean against the back of the chair. It's also the right pose to benefit from the extra energy that flows through the crown chakra at the top of the head. Before you sit down, you should find a place that is clean, comfy, and has enough light. It's not a good idea to be in the dark to focus better, because dark rooms with light walls aren't good for that. Let the light shield you. Picture and feel your body surrounded by bright white light. Says, I am the light of God that protects me from everything that is not perfect. Take a few slow, deep breaths. You can do 3, 6, 9, or however many you want. People should believe that the air we breathe contains more than just oxygen. It also contains divine breath, also known as holy breath. This powerful force gives us life. Keep quiet, pay attention, and tell your body what to do. Sit still and pay attention to your body. Check to see which part is tense, and then tell the muscles that are tight to rest. Do not think about anything after you have relaxed. Say to yourself, I am peace and balance. In me, my whole body is at peace, relaxed, rested, and in perfect harmony. I practice silence because in the silence of the inner being is the truth. For a short time, try not to think about anything. There are too many problems and fears in your mind for it to follow. This will cost you. Technique and persistence are needed for everything. To keep track of time, you can focus on your heart and feel it beat. Think that God is in your heart, which is a temple that you didn't build with your hands. You can do this every day for about 20 minutes. Start with 5 or 10 minutes and keep adding time until you reach your goal. You will see better results if you do the workout twice a day. It is best not to worry when you feel very hot, because that is the energy release we talked about. You shouldn't expect to see ghosts or hear words or other strange things. You are just practicing being quiet and focusing on yourself, which is where God is. Lesson 6. I look at the present, which is always present. Thinking too much can lead to a lot of problems and worries. When you think about bad things that happened in the past or are scared about what might happen in the future, you don't enjoy life and miss out on chances. Because we are used to living in the past, we don't pay attention to the present, which is the now we are living in, today, every day, making links in an endless chain that will never end. Happiness today means taking advantage of all the good things and experiences that life has to offer. This is because today, the endless present, is the richest time for a person and holds the keys to making the future. Today is the only day we have, and how we live today will determine how our future turns out. The way we live now determines whether we succeed or fail. Our plans for tomorrow are being made today, and yesterday is dead and gone. That's why it's not even worth remembering. Whenever you do something, try to keep your mind on the present moment and do it as well as you can. Never think about tomorrow or dwell on the past. It's not worth your time. People have the bad habit of living in the past. Since they only have the present, they can't help but remember bad or good things that happened in the past. Because remembering good and happy times makes you sad because you can't enjoy them anymore. If there are bad luck and sadness behind them, the memory brings those things back strongly, causing pain and unhappiness. Paying attention to something makes it grow, get stronger, and get bigger. When you think about and talk about bad things that happened, they come back to life and cause problems. Don't let the past bother you and take away your happiness. Say you clean your rugs really well, and then the dog brings in bones and yard waste and puts them on top of it. You can't let that happen in your life, and you also can't let sad, dead things from the past make it dirty. Stop commenting on and remembering what happened. You need to train your mind and heart to stop doing these bad things. Instead, you should use the law of forgiving and the violet flame to burn away all the bad things that happened in your life, like pain, stress, and problems. Remembering bad things is pointless. It's prideful and selfish to focus too much on your own worries and grief. Talking about, thinking, and commenting on a painful past brings in bad energies that are annoying and usually hurt the head. After all those talks, cries, and complaints, they say that whining is a bad habit that makes things worse and brings what they call bad luck. People who often complain, blame others, and lament never live a happy life. They keep attracting bad things to happen to them and even get sick easily. This happens because those kinds of things can make people angry. The person who is angry is never happy. It's important to get rid of emotions by ignoring them and not thinking about them. It doesn't help to blame other people, life, states, or politics. It only makes people angry. People fail when they complain about how hard life is, how much it costs them to get ahead, other people's carelessness, and other similar things. Another bad habit that needs to go is dramatizing, which is an overdone way of making bad things seem worse. Someone who dramatizes always sees the bad, brings it up, and makes it so big that it bothers everyone a lot. All dramatists are negative, scared, and suffer a lot. Other people don't want to deal with them because they are annoying. Dramas are very bad for your work, family, and social life. Generalizations also lead to a dramatic habit of crowds. They focus on a single event, play it up to the max, and then apply it to everyone else. A lot of people say things like, all men are shameless, there is no money for anything, you can't live, the atmosphere is polluted, and many more. People who act out a lot are sad, nervous, and often lonely. Sadness builds up into a heavy load of energy that slows life down, comes and goes like a rubber ball, and makes everyone uncomfortable. Do not worry about the future. It will only make you unhappy and cause you to miss out on chances to enjoy life regularly. Fear and uncertainty about oneself, as well as a lack of spiritual satisfaction from not knowing the holy presence, I am, are at the heart of this way of thinking. Our all-powerful Father always helps us. If you don't call on him, he won't answer, leaving you with only limits, pain, discomfort, and problems. When people live like this, they are afraid of what will happen next. People who buy tomb plots ahead of time ask those who save too much for pensions, which takes away his all-powerful heart. The lesson is that we were not born to suffer if we were born to achieve. We were not made by God to be playthings for events. Our fate is not to suffer or put up with pain just because we can. Life is like a school for people who are on the same spiritual path, and a university for people who are always on the lookout for the most important things in life, like understanding and knowledge. There is one truth. We are all here to learn on Earth, which is the school of the cosmos, and nothing that happens to us is by chance. Reason, not chance, is what makes things happen. Based on what we learn every day, our level of consciousness will rise. This means that we will understand more and be able to see beyond the limits we set for ourselves. And through hard times, we will truly awaken and stop being men and women who are sleeping. Being passive because of faith and the silly idea that God wants it doesn't mean we have to accept pain and suffering. No, God wants us to be happy, healthy, and joyful, and He wants us to get ahead and be happy with our lives. People put the bad and sad side by being stupid and making mistakes. People often live in ignorance, which leads to the worst disasters. When bad things happen, people who lack knowledge have no choice but to give up. But God doesn't want that to happen. No matter where you are or how you live, get up and look up. That is your fate. God gave you the ability to reach for the stars. Today is the start of everything, and the endless present can make anything happen because it is time for everyone and has no end. We only need to keep reaching for more and more to reach the perfection of being and live in time that never ends. Know this: we were not made to suffer. Everything can be made better, renewed, and changed, just like the cells in your body renew quickly before you get medical care. Health also comes back in this way. Humans have the power to be regenerated at any time and in any place in their lives they choose. This is because God is their heart, divine presence, and divine energy. He is the most powerful being in the world and can do anything. When you know the truth, you're free. So, take that truth and make it your own. Raise your eyes and your will, and you will no longer be a man who is sleeping and losing. You know that the name of God is I Am, and that I Am has been there for thousands of years. As long as we live in this world, we will all have problems and situations that bother us because we are on the path to perfection of being, which is the glorious destiny. As long as we don't follow the divine plan for perfection that the universe has been given, we will suffer. No one can follow God's plan or rise above the lower levels if they don't know enough about the ultimate truths, which are the way to perfection that everyone deserves. One well-known spiritual concept says that if you know the truth, it will set you free from all pain, trouble, and discomfort. Problems are like useful tools for getting better because each person is the artist who makes his or her own picture and shapes his or her future, for better or worse. It's not by chance or because God wants to harm you. It's not true. Everything happens to be renewed if it's bad, and to strengthen and rejoice if it's good, mostly so that you can get through it with knowledge and experience. There is nothing that grows without working for it. Even trees grow in this way because they are live things that want to be perfect. Additionally, nothing is given to us. We have to work hard and ask the God of your heart to help us win every battle. You can also solve your own problems. Free will is a sacred rule that is observed all over the universe. It gives us the power to choose what we want to do and how we want to do it. It doesn't get rid of the desire to do bad things, give advice on anything, or even just let people know that it exists, so people can go where they please, even if it means they'll fall into deep holes. No one or anything can stop you from making your life what you want it to be, good or bad. That is your absolute right. We can live our lives the way we want to because we have free will. We can choose from the options that come up, but we have to be very careful and aware. Our vital energy and powers are given to us, and we must use them well in order to live. If we don't, we will have to answer to the karma court. It is very important that we take care of our thoughts, feelings and words, because we know that what you think, feel and say will become what you have, enjoy and own. You are not a toy of fate. Everyone has the freedom to make their own life conditions. We are all leaders of our own ships, not toys that a dumb force moves from one place to another. Most of the time, we go about making our fate in a happy, crazy and careless way because we don't know any better. In the same way, we plant disasters and bad luck in our lives without even realizing it. This is called karmas. Bad ones that we will have to pay for in other lives, but there is always time to fix things, and the afterlife is the place where we can do it. No one is like a drop of water being pushed by the waves with no plan or direction. That drop of water is part of the huge sea and has all the power of God the Father. You're not just a leaf blowing in the wind. You have power within you. Use it, but don't do it mindlessly. Do it in a good way. Bad use of power leads to bad things, while good use of power leads to good things and joy. In the 8th lesson, I learned that my body is the right tool for my spirit to show itself on the physical plane. I am a holy and endless being who has always existed. In order to grow and gain new experiences, it needs a body that is just right for its wants. This tool is the body made of flesh, which is very dense and doesn't know much about the spiritual world above. This useful tool has been made with all the parts it needs for this dimension. A mind to think, hands to do, feet to walk, eyes to see, heart to feel. This amazing machine, which is powered by life's divine energy, is complete. It is properly set up and strong enough to handle any problems that come up, just like any tool or machine meant for any purpose. It is important to take good care of, feed, and clean the body. Bad handling, too much of it, and not taking care of it at all, destroy it and cause it to break down, which is what they call death. When you consume too much, it ruins it and makes you pick up bad habits. We need to be smart about how we use this tool, because we will have to explain it to the karma court anyway. Also, the body needs to be trained, taught, and made better in order to work well and reach its goals. The thinking being's body is like a clothing that wraps around him, because the supreme light consciousness is always inside him and on earth. Just like no one can walk down the street naked, the eternal being has to dress in order to take on the right form. When this dress gets old, dirty, or worn out from being used incorrectly, it is thrown away. The supreme energy, which is infinite intelligence, also gives up the dress of flesh because it is no longer useful or usable. Then it goes to other higher dimensions to keep living, and people on earth think that the person has died, which is not true at all. It is wrong to cry over graves in cemeteries and go there with sadness and pain, thinking that loved ones are under the ground. There is only a useless clothing lying there that is slowly falling apart. The timeless being is gone, like a car or vehicle that gets you from one place to another. We all need to move and experience new things. Because nothing is static, the body can't fly on earth because it is so dense and heavy. It has to walk slowly, which is why it was given legs and feet. The thinking being, which is the highest intelligent energy, moves through it, but it's not the only way it can get to different planes. It can use other vehicles to go to different planes while sleeping at night, when it meditates, and when it dies. Just like a visitor never stays in one place, the endless consciousness or spirit likes to go to new places, both near and far. Father God lets this happen. It only thinks and knows that it has one body on earth, the fleshly clothing, but in reality it has 3 more. The body that gives it energy, the body that makes it feel things, and the body that makes it think. He also has 3 spiritual vehicles that he can use for greater goals. A person has 7 vehicles, which we call bodies, and each one has a specific job to do. There is more than one type of vehicle used for movement on Earth. These include cars, bikes, bicycles, buses, planes, trains, helicopters, ships, and more. There are many ways to move around in the vast cosmos. As a space dweller, man can take advantage of any chance that comes his way, as long as he earns it. Like a house, it's a place to live for the person or thing that lives in it and uses it for its own purposes. But houses can be well or badly used and cared for, which affects how well they last or how badly they break down. Bodies that are sick or not perfect are like old homes that haven't been taken care of in a long time. They slowly fall apart. Bodies that are healthy and reflect health are like neat and clean homes where people live happily and joyfully, following God's rules. Because it's like a child, it needs to be taught, trained, praised, appreciated, loved, and given care. The body is the most obedient and regulated thing in the world. A bad habit is caused by the way it is treated, the extravagances that are enjoyed with it, the bad habits that are allowed, and the mistakes and abuses that are done with it. A bad habit is the result of an unfair demand or an excessive luxury. When someone insists too much at first, their body refuses because it knows what is right. But when someone insists too much and puts too much pressure on their body, the body weakens its resistance and it starts to accept and do things automatically, making it hard to stop. You should know that the body is the most obedient of the seven and gives in to human will the most, good or bad. The body is a house of the living God, so it should be treated with respect and care as such. It should be kept clean and in good shape. It's not good to work out with shame, and it's also not good to go into a temple with a dirty mind or bad intentions. No one should debase the body with low emotions, fights, disagreements or discord, because that would be like letting drunks, thieves, and other unwanted people into their home or filling their home with trash. Do not overwork your body, wear it out, or push it further than it should be. Also, do not make it sick, as this creates karma bills that you will have to pay off in later times. So, someone who doesn't take care of their body and weakens it through bad habits, limited food, and other things that stop it from working properly will get sick in the next life. That kind of sports activity that wears out the body too much goes against God's rules. Play sports in moderation, without using too much or too little energy. You should take good care of your body and use it in the right way. Lesson 9. Everything bad can be changed. To convert means to change a bad belief into a good one. To change, to get rid of something old and flawed so that it can be brought back to life in its good and perfect form. As an example, health can turn into disease and wealth can turn into poverty. Like beauty changes ugly things into beautiful ones, wisdom changes ignorance into wisdom. Transmutation is the process of changing something negative into something positive. It's like holy alchemy and a strong way to clean up life by restoring balance and freeing it from all the bad things that come from our minds, both individually and as a group. All mistakes from the past that have caused issues and disagreements in the present need to be changed. The transformation processes in the violet consumer's spark can get rid of everything that is unfinished. The ascended master Saint-Germain sent this strong energy from the level of light to earth to free it from bad things that are happening and pain. We can use it to improve our lives and move forward. Purification is needed for each person and for the whole group. In order for people to live in the future and follow the great cosmic law of unity and perfection, they need to get rid of all the horrible things they have made and make the earth perfect again. Everything that doesn't follow that universal rule in its most basic form is killed by karma, the laws of cause and effect, because it doesn't fit the plan for beauty set up in the universe. As a symbol of the New Age, Master Saint-Germain stands for cleaning. For the next 2,000 years, it will be up to him to decide what will happen on Earth. Because of this, he brought the strong violet energy to life, which can be easily called upon to achieve amazing results. With or without the violet flame, it burns and destroys everything that isn't pure and perfect. It gets rid of all conflict, mistakes, and limits. No one can be freed on this world or stop the wheel of reincarnation. The violet flame is invisible to the naked eye, but can be seen by seers because it acts like electricity from the fourth dimension. Transmutation is a sign of hope and improvement for the present world. It's like fire that burns everything it touches and works right away. Decree of transmutation. In the name of God, I call on the powerful violet flame to cleanse and burn me. I surround myself with its energy and let the great power begin to change my life for the better. I ask the law of forgiveness to forgive me for all the mistakes I've made in the past and present. I give thanks. Blessing decrees that blessings, praise and thanks make what is wanted or needed happen faster and more easily. I bless whatever you want to see grow, just like the Master Jesus blessed 5 loaves of bread and fed 5,000 people because he saw so much good in the world. I pray for the good to happen in this case and want it to happen. There is good and bad in everything. When you bless the good, you make the good stronger and want it to come true. To bless something means to say something good, positive, or well. Things that are blessed grow, get bigger, and more of them. If there is a problem, it has been fixed. A strong, high-frequency energy is made when you bless someone, and a very damaging and upsetting black energy is made when you curse someone. We should be thankful for and bless everything we have, because that will make it grow and improve our lives. When you bless money, you get more money and more material well-being. When you bless your family, you get peace and well-being. Before something bad happens, don't be sad or angry. Instead, think that everything happens for a reason, and that there is a good secret inside everything. If you ask for something and try to get it, and it doesn't happen, it's because it doesn't happen. Don't try to make things happen by forcing them, because what will happen will not be good. Everything has good in it, and even the bad things we think of as evil have a secret good that can be blessed. This includes money, health, family, friends, home, truth, work, and so on. Bless their divine being, not the people they are. Bless the sick person, not the health that lives inside him, and bless the thief, not his evil nature, but the goodness that shows itself in him. Say this affirmation before you face a problem or setback. I bless the good in this situation, and I want to see it come true. When someone gives me money, may divine love bless it and make it grow in my hands and in the hands of the person who gave it to me. I don't accept any bad things that might happen, not for me or them. Instead, I call for good things, bless them, and wait for them to happen. If something goes against what we want, I bless this situation and the good that lies within it. I know that everything works out for the best, and the only reason something isn't given is because it's not handy. Anything bad in my life has to go away because I don't accept it. Before I face any situation that is hard to understand, I bless it for the good that it holds. I know that everything holds good. 10th lesson, I get through things by working hard. Mentalism is the first rule of creation. It is so important that people who don't know and follow it don't go any further on the spiritual road and stay where they are. This law must always be followed, or else students will waste their time, no matter how much progress is made in teaching in a serious way. Comments and criticisms. It's interesting to see how interested and good students, who seem to have made a lot of spiritual progress, sometimes use the wrong word and the wrong use of energy for something so small. They hold their best friend up to the sun and start criticizing him for flaws and bad things they see in him, even though they know that these are not the truth and are just the lower self's appearance of imperfection. The divine Christ self is perfect, so the truth frees us from everything that is bothersome when we don't give it power and don't even see the negative. It's a matter of focus. Our attention goes where we want it to go and stays there to produce results, good or bad. Negative words cause a lot of trouble and pain because they make things worse, push people away, and make things more difficult. They're like black smoke that fills the air and makes it sick. So, kids who don't understand the law of mentalism don't make progress and get out of tough situations in their lives. When comments are full of abuse, rumors, and bad things about other people, like take it or leave it, they do a lot of damage. It's like hiding a powerful bomb outside. No one knows when it will go off. This is why you should stop nasty comments right away and not let anyone else do it around you. Rose-colored glasses. Unity must be kept at all levels. This is important for a metaphysician to know, whether he is thinking about the family core, friendships, work, social life, etc. Where there is unity, good things happen and perfection appears. But where there is disunity, separation happens right away, letting in the effluvium, a negative polarity that destroys and upsets everything. A family that stays together through good times and bad can handle anything and come out on top. Friends who can't be separated are unbeatable. Only love can bring two people together. The strong and winning force of love keeps the bond strong. People don't see a person's flaws when they love them, but it comes up when they start to notice them, and even more so when they say something about them. Right away, the split. There are no more friends, no more dates, no more family, and everyone is against each other. If you want to keep the peace in your family, with your friends, or with your boyfriend, we suggest that you use your imagination to see only the good in everyone. This is because when you look at the bad, you give it energy, you attract it, and you build a wall between you and it. When you drive a split, you end love, friendship, and respect. Effluvia can also be used to bother people. We all have flaws. Yes, that's what they say out there. But you know it's not true, because the things that bother us are only appearances that go away when we breathe in the truth, which frees us from our worries and makes us peaceful and happy. Trouble will start in your life and the lives of others when you start to see flaws in other people. This is the law and the harvest of what you sow, because you have slid into the negative pole without realizing it. This is why you allow it when you look at someone else's flaw and criticize it with other people. This does not help that person in any way. Instead, it hurts them because it sends them negative mental energy that sticks to the flaw. In other words, it makes it bigger and thicker. Because of this, people who are attacked often find it hard to get past the bad and make peace with it, to always see the good and perfect in everything. This is a very important spiritual rule that leads to great results, calms the mind, and makes life easier. The person who always sees the good in things, no matter how they look, is well prepared and in a good mood for tomorrow. However, you have to be on guard all the time, because your eyes will always be drawn to what is bad, inconvenient, or out of sync. Look at the good, and it will be given to you, says Connie Mendez. This is an old habit that works because you bring good things into your life. Additionally, if you only focus on the bad, you immediately attract it, and, to use a metaphor, it sticks to you stronger. All of this attention is like a magnifying glass that, when placed on bushes in the field, focuses the sun's rays there with great force, starting a fire. When we look at things with a magnifying glass, they look big. The same thing happens when you focus on other people's flaws and on bad things that don't work out. You give them more power and cause a very upsetting expression. Keep your mind under control and don't let go of it, no matter where it goes. You need to make good use of your attention, which is a great skill. It is always possible to make things right. The Master Jesus says, "Do not let yourselves be troubled by things that look like obstacles, and do not let yourselves be attacked by flow." It's you who fight for the new age. Always be on guard and on your feet. You need to understand that everything changes when you build energy in a group. If you leave the chats without saying anything, the effluvium will follow you and try to bother you. If you make a mistake, you can always fix it. Lesson 11. Resentment is inaction, and it makes people unhappy. Resentment is a very bad feeling, especially for the person who is feeling it and not for other people involved. This is because, according to the law of the circle, whatever you project outward finds like-minded thoughts to feed on and then comes back to the consciousness of its creator, poisoning its home in the mind and the temple body. No one can live in peace and quiet if they have a grudge against someone, something, or somewhere. It makes people sad, kills their joy, kills their desire to live, and makes them sick, because all of a sudden they get a strange illness that they can't control. It is known that anger makes life worse, ages people, and makes them sick. It looks like a hornet's nest on the inside and could show up in a bad way at any time on the outside. All anger needs to be changed. Anyone who has stored up anger against people, situations, or things needs to change their feelings right away, because they can't grow emotionally if they are angry. This stops people from moving, because anger is a milder form of hate and contains no love whatsoever, along with a critical and judging nature of mind. People who judge others badly do so because they don't understand, tolerate, or love them. There is danger when a hornet's nest forms, because these bugs get in everywhere, including the house, and attack without warning, which can be hard. Nobody is in charge of a hornet's nest or the problems that come from it, unless it is completely wiped out. So it is with anger. It needs to be taken out at its source, which can only be done with a good transformation treatment. Someone who is angry may have become wealthy and have a lot of nice things, but on the inside they are angry, unhappy, and their spiritual life has not grown. It can't say what it wants to say when a room is full of black smoke that leaves marks on the walls and makes everything look dull. Metaphysicians must examine themselves. Don't say sorry for anything, and if you know there is anger in the choice, move it right away. These things need to be cleaned out of our minds, hearts, and bodies. We can't act like we're moving forward on a road of light until we get rid of all the anger that lives inside us. Strong, determined, and persistent work must be done until the root, the core, the database, and the memory of these conditions are gone. If someone wants to make their life better, they need to get rid of all their problems and turn them into violet fire. If they don't, their life will go badly, even if they get rich. Above all, it is necessary to understand and forgive. Forgive yourself and everything that needs our pardon. Egregores of anger, there are huge. Egregores of anger and rancor filling the atmosphere because they are collected human works that go from mind to mind. But this should not worry at all a metaphysician who knows the rules and is trained. If he keeps his feelings at peace, his mind clear, and does not put himself in vibratory alignment with the lower, he has nothing to fear and will always be safe. Rancor against life, things and situations. Many people blame life for their unhappiness and lack of luck. There are also those who believe that the city, the country where they live, is to blame for their mediocrity or that they have not been able to progress. Others blame their work, bosses and colleagues who hate or envy them, and it is even possible to blame objects, material things, for personal misfortunes. This mental approach is a major mistake. It does not solve anything and always makes things worse. It is important to understand that only oneself is the only one to blame for one's own problems and difficulties because of one's mistakes, false ideas and beliefs, wrong mental position. It is difficult for people who act like this to succeed because deep in their heart there is a feeling of anger that poisons their life. Every person should be grateful to life for the many chances and blessings it gives them. Resentment against life, blaming it, is a karma situation. There will never be happiness for people who think like this. Life should be blessed constantly, for it is a valuable gift and is never to blame for anyone's tragedy or unhappiness. As anger and any other bad things made by humans leave the mind of their creator and enter the atmosphere, nature cleans itself. Nature takes on the load of the imperfect and sends it back to its source as a usual part of the cleansing process. This is what causes earthquakes, hurricanes, volcanic events, and other things that are called catastrophes, because they cause a lot of damage. These dirty things tend to be washed away by nature and sent back to where they came from, It's like bathing or cleaning the house every time it gets messy. No one wants to stay dirty because they are mad. In this way, nature cleans itself by getting rid of the impurities of human thoughts and feelings that don't go with it and returning to its original state of holy purity. In the same way, anger hurts only the person who has it, not the person who is being angered. Having anger in your heart is not at all a good thing. The heavenly order manifests love, according to Lesson 12. Let something go if you love it. It's yours if it comes back to you. It was never yours if it doesn't come back. What does love mean? Without a question, love is a beautiful emotion that comes from within and leads to giving in a spiritual sense. Also, the energy that makes you want to give, help, and make other people happy without expecting anything in return is pure and honest. Love is more than just a couple's bond. It includes many other areas or things as well. What do most people mean when they say love? In this world, what we call love is just the outside, the most basic part of that higher principle that every person must reach in its entirety, not just a few parts. A deeper and more complete form of love is love for all living things, including things that don't move. This includes family, marriage, friendship, and a strong devotion to a subject in art, science, or knowledge. Ascension to higher levels is possible once this is fully understood. There is no longer any reason to stay on the physical plane or reincarnate here. Selfishness, obsessive desire, legal restrictions and traps, as well as the chains that hold selfish emotions captive, must not be present in true love, because I give to you and you give to me is a selfish way to act. Passions and sex make love dirty and take away its pure state. Possessive love kills the heart of love when there are low emotions and a natural urge to hoard. Because it is a kind and free feeling, freedom can never grow or live in the grip of an obsessive desire. People who try to control others because they see them as their property say they love them and think they love them, but they haven't learned how to love yet. There is hidden greed at the heart of both of them. That's why they put rules on others and make them suffer. I'm doing it for you is something they say a lot. They say, it's best for you, but they only do it for themselves. Try to take over something and watch it slowly die, like a light being burned out in silence. Cut a rose in half, put it in the palm of your hand, and then close your fingers around it to hold it captive. By doing this, you will destroy the rose and get thorns in your hand. And the same thing happens to someone who tries to control others. He makes them hostile, and they could blow up at any time. People whose lives are controlled by other people are sad, unhappy, and angry. Even if they have given up some control, they are still like a prisoner who will try to flee at the first chance, leaving the abuser alone, because the surrender they show is forced. This is what will happen to friends who are exclusive, parents who are jealous, and jealous mates. They are finally left behind when people can't take any more pain, fear, or are at their limit of patience. Every breach of the law makes people suffer. So we say, set them free if you love them, whether it's your child, your girlfriend, your wife, a friend, or someone else. That's the only way for love to live and grow without any chains of selfishness. Do not force your will on other people. Do not tell them what to do or how to act, and do not stop them from doing things that are within reason. Don't rule over your love with a hard fist if you don't want to lose it. Take care of and protect it. Respect other people's will and way of being, as well as their likes and ideas, if you want to keep your love. Don't put them down. If you think you're better, remember that no one is perfect, and that freedom comes from God. This means that we are all born with the sacred right to think, be, and act, which is called free will. No one has the right to break this sacred law. We need to learn that love without freedom isn't even love. Let other people grow and live their lives as they should. Jealousy is hell. Being jealous is a more subtle form of being selfish, and it's a hell because it causes so much pain. Because there is no love in jealousy, it comes from fear mixed with ego, doubt, and insecurity. As a result, it leads to suspicion and conflict. People who are jealous think they love a lot, but they don't know how to love. Jealousy makes the air unhealthy to breathe, and jealous people hurt and chain their loved ones to the point where it's unbearable. In the end, they deserve to be left alone and learn how to love truly through hard times. Metaphysicians can help people who are stuck in this sad state by giving them the right medicines and shedding light on the darkness. The key is to let go and let go. Without being selfish or indifferent, when you let go of something and get it out of your thoughts, you let it breathe and live its own life. Amazing things happen. The boyfriend of a young woman, for example, is upset and stressed because she is always needing attention and telling him how beautiful she is. That guy will leave and never come back. What should you do? We tell you not to punish yourself for his lack of love, because if he comes back to you, he is yours, and if he doesn't, he was never yours. No one takes away someone else's boyfriend or wife. There are deep reasons that aren't seen at first. One of the two wants it and lets it happen. Second, the person who left was just passing through and shouldn't have been in your life. Everyone does their own thing. There are only laws, and everything is perfect. Even though it might not seem like it, love for everything. Love isn't a limited and exclusive feeling. It affects everything. It's a load of nonsense to think that love is just the physical experience and the pressure of falling in love between two people. Life, money, work, fun, art, music, power, home, a cat, a dog, a friend. There are many things that people can love. What people call love between couples is a mix of feelings and possessive passion. It won't last if it's only about looks, because what lasts is the union of souls, not bodies. Love and care should be shown to all living things, including people, animals, and plants, regardless of race or color. Respect for life is a holy rule. Love is pink and comes from the heart, which is also where its strength and power come from. Flare 3 times. Fear is the biggest enemy of people. The less fear you have, the healthier and more peaceful your life will be, and the more fear you have, the more bad things will happen. Getting rid of fear is the only real problem people have. If you don't fear something, it can't hurt you. Remember that fear is often hidden in the mind, so don't allow it to show itself. The best sign that you are no longer afraid of a certain situation is when you feel joy and happiness when you think about it. It's helpful to remember that fear is not real. Take it apart and watch it fall apart. A strange thing happened in Holland many years ago. A lion got away from a moving show. Not far away, a nice woman was sewing by the window that was open. Suddenly, the animal jumped out of the window and ran right past her. It then ran down the hall and into a room under the stairs. The shocked woman thought it was a donkey and was mad that the animal had left wet tracks on her clean floors. When she looked for it, she found it stuffed in the closet with her mops and brooms. After that, she hit it with broomsticks. The lion, scared to death, crept into the back of the closet, and the angry woman hit it harder. At that very moment, 4 men with guns, chainmail, and other weapons showed up and caught the lion. The lion gladly gave up, happy to get away from that scary woman. It took the good woman several days of being sick after she found out she had been beating a lion. This story perfectly shows how fear can make you lose motivation. The good woman ruled the animal while thinking it was a donkey, and when she treated the lion like a donkey, it thought she was very strong, which is why it was scared of her. The woman's old racial belief of fear came back to her when she realized she had been wrong. Even though she was now totally safe, she continued to act in line with racial practice. Get over your fear and put all of your attention on this one thing. Everything else will take care of itself. To get rid of fear, you need to know that God is with you and that the Father loves you and will protect you from all harm if you ask Him to. You must know this to be true. Love neutralizes fear and ends it. It says in the Bible, John 4:18, "In love there is no fear. Perfect love drives out fear, because fear leads to error and trouble in your life." If you fear something, it will come true because you give it power and draw it strongly into your world. We metaphysicians add to this. Fear brings what it fears into your life. Afraid of being robbed, you will be robbed, and what you fear will happen to you. This rule draws things together. It can't be avoided. Stopping being afraid is the best thing to do. Get over your fear, because it's not good for you. Lesson 14. Change your regret. Every time someone has to make a choice, they have to do everything they can to do their job. The person who made the mistake is not to blame, because no one knows how to do more than they can do at the right time. Even the smartest person in the world can only do what they know they can do. So, remembering mistakes that were made in good faith is a waste of time. This kind of regret takes away peace and does a lot of damage inside. If a fool thinks about and studies what is happening, he can see what will happen, but it is hard to see what will happen in a smart way. But what counts is doing the best you can and think you can do. To help you out, we say that you should do your best given the situation and then not think about anything else. Of course, philosophy students always ask for guidance from their higher selves before they make a big choice. They pray to the Christ inside them to help them stay safe and not make any mistakes. Then, if they listen to their gut, good things will happen. You have to really believe what you say or ask for, because if you don't, no matter how much faith you have, nothing will happen in your daily life. Having to remember something is a heavy load that makes people sad, ages them, darkens their days, and upsets their balance. A person feels terrible when they do something wrong and make other people suffer. This feeling gets worse over time because the situation can't be fixed. But if you're this far into philosophy and already know the truth about this situation of regret, then everything always works out. Try to stop it. Your evolution gives them to you before anything happens that could make you feel bad. Don't let it happen. You shouldn't keep telling yourself that you did something bad and that you could have done better. Then there is no way to fix it. Things that are done are forgotten about. To calm your nerves, tell yourself, "I did my best and suffered as much as I could at the time. I close this case, liquidate it, and start a new, better account." That's the point of lesson 15. In my life, success means getting through hard times. Anyone who has ever been successful has done so by getting through tough times. Anyone can be successful if there are no problems to solve. That is not what you would call success. There was a time when it was very hard to set up a telegraph line from New York to Boston. It was easy to do after that. But back then, laying the transatlantic line was a big deal because of all the problems that had to be solved. These problems were also solved in the end. No matter how bad a personal problem seems, it can be solved with spiritual treatment that is calm and consistent, along with the right steps. There may be something that is stopping you from being successful. Do not give up. Take advantage of that problem and use it to your advantage. The great author H.G. Wells had to quit a low-paying job because of health problems. He had to stay at home and write books that made him popular all over the world. Edison went deaf after a while because he thought it would help him focus on his ideas more. As a child, Theodore Roosevelt was sick and was told to live alone and take care of himself. He was also nervous and had trouble seeing far away. He didn't follow these advice. Instead, he worked hard to build his body and became the famous strongman who became President of the United States. Gilbert wrote the Zarzuela Pinafore while he was sick and stuck in bed with terrible pains. The wife of a poor seller who got tuberculosis was the owner of a famous fashion house in London. It wasn't her job, and she had never been in business before. When she had to take care of her husband and 2 kids, she had no money, just good taste in clothes and faith in prayer. She is now wealthy and well known. I wished I could sell clothes that I could never afford. No matter what your problem or obstacle is, use it to your advantage. It always seems like the problem itself is the hardest thing, but with mental help and a strong will, anything can be solved. There are signs that lead to God that look like problems. Being changed. Who is a changed person? A lot of people want to be seen as active, but it looks like they don't really know what that word means. A lot of people think that being dynamic means acting rude, loud, or haughty. A lot of other people seem to be more interested in getting noticed and standing out in some way. None of these things are even close to being true. Someone who changes the world and other people, or who changes themselves, is dynamic. Even though this person may not have done a lot of important work, the world is a little different because they lived and acted in it. That's what it means to be active. Powerful people always make the world and other people better. As an example, many well-known people have changed the lives and futures of other people, and everyone knows about what they did. This is what happened with Napoleon, Washington, St. Paul, Bolivar, and other people. There are also many men and women whose works aren't well known, but they are still important because they have changed the world in some small way. You are active and help change the world because you have lived in it, if you are able to do something, no matter how big or small. You're not really active if all you do is act like you're doing something, talk about it, and move around. At that point, you're just acting like a role player and don't really believe what you're saying. He is active when he does something in a new and better way, when he makes 2 grains of wheat grow where only 1 grew before, or when he builds a business that helps people or gets them work. Someone who comes up with a useful idea, writes good music or poems, or draws beautiful pictures is active. Doctors who heal and teachers who teach are always changing. The world is a little different after each of them. As Washington did, you can change the course of events, and you can also heal someone or just. Some people are happy with who they are and like to act like they're someone else. They spend their time and energy on things that are only seen from the outside and don't help them outside. They act fake and talk about great things they have done or plan to do that don't happen. They think of themselves as very active because of this. The truth is that it's not true. Believing that God does everything through you, no matter how big or small, is the key to being powerful. You should use your skills and gifts to help him in the most honest and useful way possible. To be as flexible as you need to be in this way. If you use this method, even for a short time, you will be amazed at how well it works and how active you become. Living and being in the truth is what it means to serve well. You will know them by their fruits. Lesson 16. God's house is in my heart. People lost touch with the traditional idea of God after the fall of great civilizations like Atlantis, Lemuria, and the land of Mu, which had reached a high level of understanding of the one God. This ignorance and backwardness lasted for many centuries. Idolatry, the belief in many gods represented by statues, sometimes awful and gross, was one of the types that was slowly wiped out. Later, the religious idea of a harsh and fair God who is always set on punishing the evil things in the world came about and is still believed today. They put him in a faraway place in space that they loosely called heaven and portrayed him as a kind but somewhat random old man who got very angry easily when things didn't go his way and was also very tolerant and lax at other times. The religious keep talking to their followers about the fear of God and the wrath of God, and all of the faithful agree that one must fear God. Because of this fear, one must behave well so as not to anger God and avoid being punished. This idea went back a long way, especially in the past. So, hundreds of years went by while people didn't understand the truth and believed crazy things like God's anger. That's not true. Is it possible for God, who is perfect and full of love and understanding, to be angry at the people listed above? Not at all, because an all-loving, perfect being would never punish his children, and it's even worse when he knows that they are still in the primary stages of growth and have many flaws that need to be fixed. As metaphysicians, we know that the spiritual laws are what punish, if anything, people so that everything fits into God's plan, but their main goal is to let each person learn their lesson and change how they act. People have to naturally go through higher and higher states of awareness and levels of knowledge, so let's not blame anyone for planting the idea of a just God sitting in the clouds in people's thoughts. The people of the Piscean age could not have been more honest in how they interpreted the holy texts. These days, the Aquarian age brings light into our minds, and our ideas about God are becoming more in line with the truth. Master Saint-Germain, the New Age's symbol and the world's spiritual leader for the next 2,000 years, taught people about the magical I Am presence, also known as God within, that lives in each person. This makes the individual mind focus on itself instead of looking outward like it has been, which has wonderful effects. Man finally gets to know his Father and understands that he really does exist. Thinking about God as being far away is bad for personal growth because it changes the focus and attention to things outside of oneself, which slows down or stops the usual process. As the inner God has become more aware, this one-of-a-kind God who came after the day has been given many names. One of the most well-known is Jehovah, but there are more than 70. What does God mean to you? Many people don't believe in God or anything spiritual. These people are called atheists. People who aren't atheists have accepted some form of God in their minds and hearts, understanding him in their own unique way. What does God mean to you? Do you believe in that nice old man whose home is in the clouds? Does God seem like a spirit, a force that you can't see or touch? Then it will be something cold, mechanical, and heartless. Are you of the opinion that God is a thought that people should accept religiously? We accept whatever idea you have about God because it shows what spiritual level you are at and what step you have taken in your life. For now, since evolution always pushes you to go further, it makes sense that you don't stay where you are and keep looking into things. We, the metaphysicians of the Saint-Germain Brotherhood, no longer have a blind faith. Instead, we have a deep, well-thought-out faith. God lives in the heart of every person, and that's where you need to look for him. We know this because the Ascended Masters told us so. We believe in an inner divinity, also known as a personal God or divine master. This being is full of love, wisdom, and power, and is similar to the guardian angels that religions talk about. He watches over us from the beginning of time until we are old enough to stand on our own. For now, it gives us life as a stream of energy that goes through the crown chakra on top of our heads and roots in the heart. He gives us all the abilities and skills we need, as well as all the chances and experiences we can handle. God is love, so he never harms his child, the living thing that is changing. My God is the idea of my God and our God, which has been around for thousands of years and is strongly rooted in each person's psyche. Within each of us, there is a unique spirit that we can call on for help when we are in trouble or need support. This is our inner God or divine master. That's when we pray, "My God, help me." If this idea of our God had really taken hold, we would say, "This, our God, help me." But no one thinks to pray to our God. They only pray to their own God. Why? We know this to be true because we have lived many lives, and the information we gained then comes out on its own whenever it's time. But we do have a God. He is a powerful cosmic being who has both male and female aspects. In fact, God is both father and mother at the same time. The great central sun is home to this God, who is the supreme mind of all the worlds or systems that it rules over. The name for the divine presence I am, which is the inner teacher or God of every person, is divine presence, because he is in everyone as energy that takes form, as power and light. For a metaphysician, I am is the name of God, and it means I am in you, or I show myself through you as energy, intelligence, and love. Do not put any other gods before me, the Bible says. I am in you is a phrase that was translated from Hebrew to English, and it sounds a lot like I am. The divine presence is also our Father, and is the same as the Christ who lives in our hearts, being one with the Christ in unity, power, and glory. In the following example, a king who is very busy with high-level business gives his prime minister certain tasks to do at the popular level that he himself can't reach because of his high rank. However, the king and the minister work together perfectly. They are one in government matters and agree on everything. All-powerful is the spiritual presence, who is also our personal Father. He loves his incarnated Son on this plane so much that nothing is difficult for him. He gives him all of his powers and traits. The only thing that man has to do to earn the rights is work hard. Then, when he puts forth the effort and calls on his holy presence, perfection manifests and all of his problems vanish. Because everyone has free will, the divine presence has to be called upon or invoked in order for the law to allow it to act. If a person doesn't know their own presence and don't call it into action consciously, the divine presence will never act. It's the rule that if your child goes through a lot of trouble and pain, ask and you shall receive, and knock and it shall be opened to you. Anyone who doesn't ask or knock gets nothing. Christ, the Master, said, I can't do anything by myself. The Father works in me. These words make it clear that man is just a tool, since the Father has all the power. People must learn to obey the highest inner power in order to grow spiritually and elevate themselves, because it is the love of the Father that gives them everything they need, keeps them safe from harm, teaches them to understand, and gives them the love to forgive. This way, people can gain control over their external circumstances and inherit the Father's powers. He must first learn to follow with his lower self, or human self, in order to bring the pattern of perfection to earth that it needs, and that he was born to do. If you want to obey your inner God, you have to be strong and sincere about it. So long as his human shell doesn't break, and he knows that the Father gives him all the power he needs, he will serve his inner master, for whom he lives and breathes. When and how to obey. When good, helpful thoughts come to mind, let them go to the heart. Everything good and lovely comes from the present, while everything bad, confusing and destructive comes from the lower self, which is the human personality. This self is always full of pride and thinks it knows everything and is enough. Following the heart's desires instead of always the mind's logic is similar to trusting your gut. Both are effective ways to stay in touch with your higher self. In the same way, it's important to stay in touch with your Father so that you can get power, knowledge, health, and inspiration at the right times. This is easily accomplished by meditating and thinking about things on a regular basis. It also takes actively worshipping the supreme source of life and being thankful for the gifts one has received. The human being is a self-sufficient life stream because he gets energy from his holy presence, which is me. It's a ray of bright light that goes through the head and roots itself in the heart. This energy comes down and runs right away. Man controls it, but he doesn't know it. The strong, vital current poured out every second. We use it all the time, whether we're awake or asleep. The holy presence takes away the body's life force only when man abuses the energy and power, and weakens his temple body to the point where it is no longer useful. At that point, the body is split apart and dies. The only thing that really dies in a person is their body. The energy always keeps moving in their other bodies. Life goes on in higher dimensions. The word I am is very powerful because it tells energy to do good or bad, positive or negative things. Because of this, you need to be very careful about what you say and think. I am orders are very strong. Man turns the energy into I am in his mind through thoughts, ideas and words after getting it through the crown chakra, the top of the head. Right away, the energy works to do what is ordered because every person is a maker, even if they don't realize it. The thought order is always followed. So, be careful about what you say and think. Don't say things that will turn out badly for you just because you said them. Don't let your thoughts run wild because that doesn't work for you. When someone gives an order, the energy always runs to carry it out. Making good choices is a blessing, but making bad ones is bad and causes pain, arguments, and many other problems. When you say I am, you let all that is beautiful and wonderful in. But when you say I am not, you shut out all hope. The power of the word is what gives people the power to make things happen. All that is given the personal or human self doesn't belong to him. He comes into the world without clothes on. Everything he has is stolen from the great master presence, his father, and it doesn't matter that he wastes life's gifts. There is only one source of good, and that is the personal presence. We must accept the wonderful power of the presence in order to grow and be free of all sorrow and bad luck. Recognition and acceptance of the divine presence. Every morning and every evening, relax, center yourself in your heart, and after being at peace, make the following decree. I recognize, accept, and bless the fullness of the mighty, omnipotent presence of God I am, of the radiant Christ, and I call it into action today to manifest all the truth, beauty, and perfection that are in my divine plan. Beloved presence of God in me, I joyfully accept and receive the wonderful flowing, regenerating, and vital power that comes ceaselessly through my physical body to manifest perfect health. I love my feelings. I keep my human being under control to receive now all the power of the light. Thank you. Lesson 17. The right way to pass the tests, the right mental and emotional attitude. Several negative conditions prevent the student from passing the test well and lead to failure in the examinations. These conditions are created by the student himself by accepting certain external situations, words and sayings of other people and giving them power, and thus he is already predisposed to the bad that will inevitably manifest itself. Fear of failure. If you go to the exam with fear or fear of failure, you have already failed, because fear attracts what you fear. You have to go to an exam sure of succeeding and determined to do it. When a student lacks time to study everything and has not been able to finish the subject due to some personal circumstance, he should forget it and think that everything is fine. He will invoke his divine presence to action, will give him the order, and will always hope for the best, with full conviction. Restlessness and insecurity have a powerful influence on the poor success of an examination. This opens a door to evil, for just as fear is faith in evil, so personal insecurity attracts defeat. We already know that faith does not consist only in having firm religious convictions, because there is another type of faith that is more practical, and that is to believe in oneself, to be sure of one's own knowledge, to feel that everything will turn out well as expected. Fear and insecurity block the mind, which goes blank when the student is tense, worried, afraid of failure. That is why, even if he has studied hard, sometimes it happens that ideas do not flow and everything seems to have been forgotten. The student must calm down, raise his vibrations, Concentrate on his divine presence, invoke it, and then let himself go. Peace of mind, emotional peace, and inner security or self-conviction are indispensable. When a student is blocked and does not remember anything during the exam, then something unique happens. Once the exam is over, and after having calmed down, the student raises his vibrations again normally, comes out of the tense environment, and remembers what he had forgotten, what he had failed to answer, or was wrongly focused. But it is too late. The negative vibration of some teachers. If the exam is written, it usually carries a negative vibration of the teacher, in the following sense. When he prepares the exam, he looks for what he considers the most difficult for the student, the point in which the student has not been interested. As the student is in a state of restlessness and fear, he lowers his vibration. Add to this what the teacher brings to the table, and the ground is already paved for failure. Although this is true in some cases, do not think badly of the teacher or rate him negatively. Don't focus on his faults, if he has any. Bless the teacher and ask for perfection to be manifested in him. If he seems unpleasant to you, it is because you are projecting antipathy to him. By speaking ill of him, surround him with understanding and peace. In this way, and in a short time, you will have a friend, a collaborator, who sees the good and the perfection in others, will be returned to him. But if he looks at the bad, comments on it, feels it and thinks about it, the bad will come to him, disturbing his life and his environment. Think the good, and it will be given to you, says Connie Mendez. But if you look at the bad in others, it will come back to you multiplied. It is the law. Success and failure depend on oneself, and are not caused by external conditions. It is a metaphysical principle. One should not blame others, nor the environment, nor circumstances, nor anything external for individual problems and difficulties, because no one but oneself is the cause of everything that happens to him on a personal, family, or environmental level. He who is calm and at peace receives peace, but he who is fearful and anxious because he expects evil takes it and draws it into his world. No one can avoid it. Passing an exam does not mean being lazy and careless. Anyone who acts in this way breaks the law and does not do well because he did not try his best. You have to be responsible and study first so that things go as they should. Don't fall for tricks, cheating, or being dishonest. That also doesn't work. A student who wants to do well must be honest in their mind and heart and not give in to what is wrong. It is very important to keep a positive attitude. Do not even think for a second that you are going to fail or that the test is too hard and you won't know how to answer the questions. Get rid of all of those thoughts and feelings completely. Discover the Holy Spirit in yourself, the teacher, and all the students, and use it. This loving Father inside everyone will make sure everything goes well. Do not forget to say thank you before and after the test. A grateful person gets all the prizes and honors. Thank you, Father, for listening to me. Everything is fine. Before the test, loving Master Kutum treated the student in this way. He will calm down, feel ready and at peace, let go of all fears, and trust himself. He will believe that everything will go well, and he will worship in this way. Beloved Spirit of God in me and in the teacher, I love you, I recognize you, I bless you, and I tell you to do your best on the test. I'm relaxed and at peace, and I say that everything will go well. I cover myself in truth, and I tell the teacher and all the other kids taking this test the same thing. I am the happy ending and the perfect truth. I ask beloved Master Saint-Germain to send the violet ray around this exam and into every negative particle in it. I want any negative energy to be turned into positive energy and sent back to the great cause. This energy will then be sent back to the teacher and turned into wisdom and understanding for everyone. I end this process with the pure love pink light, which brings everything together and makes it feel better. This job is yours, strong presence. Please send light and information to the cells in my brain. May they wake up and agree to do their job well. Father, thank you for hearing me. I passed this test. You should tell yourself that you are there to pass the test with flying colors and that your holy presence is in charge of everything. I am the victorious achievement, in harmony with all and for all. It's like we're all students, and the earth is like a school in the universe. It's a classroom where we all have to learn how to do well on tests. The universe is full of classrooms where we can learn new things and get better at things we already know. These are the worlds and stars that make it up. Of course, the stars aren't just there to shine in the sky, which is so blue and beautiful at night. For some, this planet is like elementary school, where basic lessons are taught. Others live and study on this plane, some at a higher level like college. Life on Earth is not random or the result of an uncontrollable force. All life is carefully planned by higher spiritual hierarchies, and the being who is going to be born, who agrees to and accepts the conditions he or she must go through, whether they are good or bad, pleasant or unpleasant. No one is born until they have all of their paperwork in order, including their ID, place of birth, profession, or work to which they are going to dedicate themselves, and other important information. If this is true, then no one is born by chance or by the whims of what people call destiny, because destiny is made by each person according to their own will and the law of free will. A person comes to this world for two reasons. First, he is at this level of evolution, and this is the class that normally corresponds to him. Second, he decides for himself and asks the karmic tribunal for permission to be born or reincarnate on the physical plane. If the request is granted, he must accept the debts that belong to him and be born to pay them. These debts are from bad behavior in past lives that hurt others or themselves. In addition to paying these debts, the person who incarnates has to learn lessons from experience, fix flaws, and develop qualities, and raise his mental and emotional level. This is because humans are always evolving and must always move forward. Evolution is the law that governs the universe. Problems and difficulties in life are really tests that everyone has to pass in order to move up the levels, get better grades, and finally reach the level of Superman. When a person has learned everything they need to know, no longer feels attached to the material world, and can love everyone and everything, that is when the ascension happens. They leave this world, taking with them their dense body that has turned into light. They will no longer be born as babies in this life, and the cycle of reincarnation ends for them. However, they continue to live in higher levels and dimensions. About 40 people saw the Master Jesus perform the ascension of science and the body in public on the hills of Bethany almost 2,000 years ago. He did this to set an example for us all to follow. What I do, you can do, and even greater things. I am the way, the truth, and the life. Ascension is not just a privilege of the Master Jesus. It is a law, a process in the graduation of the being. Sooner or later, everyone must graduate, go through the initiation, and leave the planet forever. Reincarnating in the dense world over and over again is not the only thing that can be done. There comes a day when that ends for every human being. Just like when someone graduates from college and becomes a doctor, their life, their finances, and their environment all get better. In the same way, someone who has passed all of their tests and exams in life also gets a huge change and a better promotion. The so-called problems are really tests to pass, practical initiations, or exams to move up to the next grade. The person doesn't realize how important these things are because no one has told them or warned them that they are tests on a personal and evolutionary level. If they knew this, they would try to pay more attention and care more and maybe do well on the test. Contemplation, or going into silence, is a short but very powerful form of prayer. It clears the mind, soothes the emotions, relaxes the body, and connects you with the highest part of yourself, which is the supreme source of all wisdom and power, also known as the Father, or the Divine Presence, I Am. If we think of the Divine Presence as energy in action, it is always in us and with us. The Magna Presence is love, intelligence, will to do, power to perform, and all the other qualities that each person has are loving gifts from the Supreme Presence, which is where the great power of God is, because the Presence is God Himself, embodied in each person. In the normal form of life, the Divine Presence is always with us as flowing energy, intelligence, love, and power. However, we have to make a conscious contact to get better gifts, like more strength, health, and enlightenment, which leads to success and a healthy way of living. A person who doesn't have inner light is like a blind person who keeps stumbling over walls and furniture and often falls into holes in the road. It is the law of life that if you don't strive on your own free will and don't allow the higher spiritual to guide you, you won't get better things. Imagine a very large water reservoir that provides cities with liquid elements. If the communication gate is almost closed and the pipes are clogged, only a trickle of water can reach the people for their daily needs. This is a bad shape that needs to be fixed. If the pipes are clogged too, only a trickle of water can reach with difficulty. But when the plumber is called and the pipes are cleaned, the current flows freely and without interruption, and everything is greatly improved. This is how it is with people. Their channels of communication with the supreme power of presence, their Father who gives them everything they need, are clogged, and hardly any of the life stream they need to keep living and existing are blocked. Holy breath. This is because people are covered by parts of their bodies that allow them to think and feel. People's inner clothes or bodies are often neglected and dirty, which makes it hard for the Divine Presence to help, shine, and protect them. To clear these channels, a person must consciously recognize their Supreme Father, accept Him, bless Him, and thank Him for all the gifts that have allowed them to be and exist for so many centuries. Contemplation is a spiritual practice that helps people make this conscious contact with the Supreme Father and the magical power that will free them little by little from all their limitations and sufferings. The extra energy that comes from above, given by the Father, and that flows more abundantly when the floodgates are opened, are other benefits of contemplation. This energy usually manifests as warmth throughout the body, a certain tingling sensation at the top of the head, crown chakra, and tingling in the palms of the hands. In contemplation, the most important and transcendent part is waking up the inner Christ that lives in the heart. This Christ is not the Jesus Christ that religions talk about, but it is the Son of the Holy Trinity and is in every person, because we are all three in one and everyone has a Trinity. When the Christ awakens, a person grows and feels different because he develops his inner spiritual part and gains control over himself, strength, and wisdom. If someone only has the Christ seed in them, they are like a wild animal in the field. They have no control over their emotions and no wisdom in their thoughts. They waste their time eating, sleeping, working, watching TV, and doing all the other useless things that many unconscious people do. The real thing that makes people grow is awakening their inner Christ, the teacher within them who is full of wisdom and power to enlighten, bless, and prosper them as a person incarnated in the dense plane. The Christ is connected to the Divine Presence, which is the Father or first person of the Trinity, through the supreme energy. The two are one in power and glory, but man without Christ is like a lost animal or a child who is always getting things wrong. But man with Christ is the most important thing in the world. Beloved Master Saint Germain says, Whoever practices contemplation and consciously strives to awaken his Christ by making him grow is taken into my care and becomes one of my legionaries, and I often help that person. Lesson 20. Your shield of protection. When you go into your room to be alone, to rest, to read, or to do any other personal activity that needs focus, you close the door and tell no one to bother you during that time. You tell them not to be called or sought for anything, so you can do what you want to do in peace and quiet. If you don't take these precautions, you will be constantly interrupted by conversations, noises, intrusions, interruptions, phone calls, and other things. You won't be able to focus on your work, and everything will go wrong. The same is true in spiritual matters. You must take the right steps. First of all, it is advisable to close the door to everything outside that disturbs, and then to withdraw into the silence of the inner self with peace and tranquility in order to obtain satisfactory results. To close the door to the disturbing and disturbing is to make due protection of the light before quieting down, relaxing, meditating, or practicing contemplation. If someone innocently puts himself in a receptive state without taking due precautions, he exposes himself to disturbing delusions and disturbances that can be avoided by right realization. No one would leave the door of his house open to any intruder passing by, nor would he invite him to enter his house with these or similar words: "Come in, you scoundrels. Come in, you drunkards, sadists, thieves, prostitutes, and people of bad life. Come in." This is inconceivable, for the same thing happens when someone puts himself in a receptive state and out of ignorance does not make due protection of the light before relaxing or entering into contemplation. To withdraw into silence means to be at peace with oneself, to calm the human part, to relax and focus the attention on the inner, not allowing anything disturbing or disturbing to come from the outside. You have to be still enough to find that inner silence where all things happen. The protection of light that we advise is the electronic layer of the divine presence, I Am, and the electronic circle indicated by the beloved Master Saint Germain. It is also necessary to close the doors of our aura to the astral, so that nothing inharmonious coming from that dimension comes to disturb this practice. It generates a very powerful electronic energy, although invisible, which is like a wall of luminous crystal against which everything annoying and undesirable will collide. We are children of the light, because in it we move, live, and have our being. Every student of metaphysics in the great Brotherhood Saint-Germain is a direct child of the light, and is normally assisted by the masters of the ascended hierarchy, especially by Saint-Germain and his twin ray, who in physical life was called Connie Mendez. Light, as supreme power, is in every human heart that beats with self-sustaining life. Light is vital essence, self-conscious energy that produces instantaneous perfection and knows no opposites or opposition, for it always leads to perfection. When light is called into action, all that is imperfect disappears, and discordant human creations cannot remain. Light sweeps away all imperfection, dispels all error, restores harmony, and floods with its great power the process of purification. When someone walks into a dark, strange room, they feel uneasy, scared, and out of sorts. But as soon as they turn on the light, the darkness goes away, and all problems are solved. In the spiritual world, too, calling on the light gets rid of the bad and makes things better. Light is at the center of everything. It's the radiant center of every atom that makes up the body, where perfection is always present as essence and power. But the bad and disturbing things that people experience every day are created by them misusing their free will, and they add to their light through their thoughts and feelings. This is why everyone needs to be purified. On a generalized level, man has been covering himself with dark veils that must now be removed to once again allow the light to shine from the inside out. When one bathes, one removes the dirt with soap and water. In the same way, that dirt added to the perfect has to disappear by one's own conscious effort and decision, so that the pure light once again shines in all its splendor and human pain ends. That which you call ugliness, evil, selfishness, and other discordant conditions are added to the original perfect light that is in every being. We are children of the light and must not forget it. Therefore, we have the obligation to perform this purification in ourselves as soon as possible. Everything has come from the light. Light is the universal substance from which all living forms, animate and inanimate, have sprung. It is the source of all that exists, the supreme force that animates all that is and manifests on the dense plane. In the light we exist, and we have our being. Nothing can live outside the light. The negative polarity, called evil, is the absence and lack of light. It always insists on disturbing and produces many disturbances if the person allows it. If this polarity is open to this influence, it is called the sinister force. We prefer to refer to it as the other polarity. Religion speaks of hell, demons, etc., which are nothing more than entities of the lower astral or disincarnated beings of little evolution that disturb and disturb. The astral is the immediate plane to ours, where those who go through the change called death go. It is also called the fourth dimension and has 7 levels. Lesson 21. Listen to the voice of your inner self. Most people do not perceive the voice of their inner God because they have not learned to listen and do not silence what is outside. They live turned towards the noise and bustle of the outside world, with their attention focused on the appearances of the sensory. It happens something like in this example. When a young man turns up the radio to dance with his partner and the phone rings in the next room, he doesn't even notice the call. Concentrating as he is on the loud music to answer the phone, he will have to stop dancing, calm down, and fix his attention in another direction. So it is in everyday life. Attention is focused on the external, on what is flashy and impressive, and what is inside is not heard because it is too faint. However, the inner impulse, the inner voice, always remains as the conscience that stirs if something wrong is being done. Valuable guidance, the inner voice is a source of illumination and is a very valuable, very safe guide. Whoever has developed this faculty becomes a winner and rarely makes mistakes. Some historical figures of the past owed their success to the fact that they listened to their inner voice and took enough time to achieve it. For example, in India, the mystic Gandhi, who managed to free his country from British rule without bloodshed. Thomas Edison, scientist and inventor, received his peculiar ideas in the form of a surprising meditation. The writer Mark Twain, President Abraham, and, further back in time, the young French Joan of Arc. Each person has his or her own technique for perceiving the inner voice, but it takes some practice and experience to get results. What is the inner voice? It is the way our divine presence speaks to us. To do this, we must practice contemplation or some efficient type of meditation. It is necessary to temporarily close the doors of the external and enter into silence in order to tune in and hear what comes from within. When the person is blocked by anxiety, anguish, or some negative feeling, no results are obtained, since the necessary relaxation that opens the door to higher perception has not been achieved. Impulses and hunches are the most common way in which the inner voice expresses itself. It is something very subtle but of great power if we put it into practice. When you feel the impulse to do something, do it, no matter how absurd it may seem. Later you will see that it is the right thing to do and the best thing to do. The divine presence has surprising and always more glorious ways than we can imagine. If we give it the order, we will benefit. We already know that truth comes from the heart and does not come from logical reasoning or the intellect. When the heart and the brain speak, when examining any problem or personal situation, it is better to give preference to what we feel and not to what we think, because the heart is the sure guide to avoid mistakes and failures. Truth and accurate understanding come from within. In these cases, as a sublime idea, an intuitive lightning, because intuition is the voice of the divine presence, that is, the voice of God. His divine presence speaks to everyone because intuition, impulses and hunches, everyone has them and has perceived them at some point in their lives. However, few are those who lend themselves to these things. Ordinary people, without great spiritual development, dismiss their hunches as foolish and meaningless. That is why there are so many failures and mistakes in the world. When the individual is very materialized and blocked, his intuition is almost imperceptible, except on rare occasions. This type of perception arises at any time in daily life, and there is no need to seek such a sublime response through contemplation. When the person makes the conscious effort to get in touch with his divine presence, dedicating some time daily to contemplation, it happens that the communication opens and the channel widens little by little. The most beautiful experiences are possible for those who persevere in this practice. But we must warn the following: do not expect surprising phenomena or unusual things. Don't think that a voice will talk to you like the one you and I have when we talk to other people. The voice is usually heard without sound and in your own brain. It's kind of telepathic, and so without phenomenology, that it seems to you like your own thoughts. When you ask your divine presence a question about a personal problem or situation, and then meditate in silence, the first idea that comes up is usually the right one. If it makes us happy, we say, "I have found it, this. This is what I was looking for, wonderful. I give you this fact. Nothing that produces discomfort, doubt, restlessness and uneasiness comes from the presence, nor is it the right answer. It is not always the solution that is of interest that comes during contemplation and meditation. So, if nothing comes, the matter should be dropped. It will happen that at any moment of the day, while we are going about our business, understanding will come and we will know with certainty what to do. The technique of quieting down, asking the question and then releasing it, is very good at all times. Hearing voices. Voice is not the same as voices. Generally, voices are heard as a whisper in your ear, and you feel that they want to tell you something. Do not pay attention to that which is of a lower order and does not suit you at all, because they are interferences from the astral that come to disturb you. This can happen because you have not yet learned to protect yourself with the light and the electronic belt, safe defenses against everything of a lower order that disturbs. It also happens to people who are very interested in the psychic and therefore give it entry into their world. Likewise, when someone falls into sadness and depression, if he is ignorant and does not practice the spiritual, he may hear voices of those. In case he is a very sensitive being with certain innate faculties of perception, in no case it is convenient to hear voices. They are annoying beings that spiritualists call detractors, disincarnated spirits that are in the astral plane waiting for a new reincarnation and are of medium or low evolution. What you have to do is to reject that immediately, invoke the divine presence into action, and do the due protection of light. Do not give it importance or be frightened, because it is not worth it. Few people hear voices. We advise you to get out of clairvoyance and leave it forever. Do not be interested in card casting, witchcraft, or anything else that produces vibrational affinity with these types of experiences. Lesson 22. Overcome life's obstacles. Do not allow yourselves to be interfered with. A warning must be given to sincere students of the light who initiate the effort of spiritual overcoming, and to those who join after times of passivity and disorientation. When one arrives at the Saint-Germain Brotherhood, one has already found the last step, and before that, in other lives, one has traveled the previous steps that exist on the planet, from one religion to another, from one philosophical system or esoteric school to another, by right of conscience and by the law of cause and effect. Each one arrives at the place that corresponds to him, but then the thing is serious if one does not know how to sustain his purpose and allows himself to be interfered with by the external conditions that commonly present themselves. He will lose the opportunity. In such cases, the student withdraws from practical instruction, ceases to attend classes, and the effluvia of the world attacks him again, for there are but two alternatives. Either he stays with the light, or he stays with the problems and sinks back into the confusion of people asleep in unconsciousness. It is common to see how very interested students begin to miss class for one reason or another. For example, a person arrives unexpectedly to visit. Someone gets sick. There are fights at home and they get into a bad mood. They are invited to a party. They have to run an errand, solve this or that matter. They say they feel tired from work or any other activity and so on. Everything seems more important to them at the moment, and they leave the light for another day. Thus they gradually drift away until they no longer remember and lose their motivation. They grow cold, and the impulse that led them to attend the talks weakens. But why do some of them fail? There is a reason. These students who let their interest weaken do not realize that they are being interfered with to abandon the spiritual path and continue to give power to the external things of the world that distract, alienate, enslave, and impede the advancement of evolution. External, we should not give power to the external because the human being is superior to the external conditions and can dominate them. What happens is that he does not know it, and so he fixes his attention on what disturbs him, giving it power instead of dissolving it. He who allows the external to interfere in his life and devotes himself first to solving the problems, the things of the world, leaving the spiritual for later, will remain with his problems and difficulties. Therefore, he will not be able to get out of them. The technique is the other way around. Attend to the spiritual first, and everything else will come later. This means that things will be easily resolved because the spiritual, with the right knowledge, overcomes unhappy situations, no matter how great they may seem to be. When some difficulty interferes to prevent attendance at lectures, the student should say, "The light first, and then the problems." Go to your lectures calmly, and you will see how everything works out well after you have proceeded correctly and have made due treatments to cut through the interference that is manifesting. There is no valuable achievement in life that does not require effort, perseverance, discipline, and willpower. What is easily acquired fades away and does not last. It is necessary to value this teaching and what is being received, otherwise it will be lost and it will not be easy to find it again. The reason for the interferences. There are two important causes in this situation. First, we are in times of change and transformation because the planet is accelerating towards its initiation, and all the inferior conditions that have kept it submerged in backwardness and suffering are being transmuted, eliminated. It is known that now ends a great cycle of 14,000 years, which is something very special in the history of human evolution. The great cosmic wheel begins again with another 14,000 years, and everything low and imperfect is going to be eliminated. We are living difficult times of transmutation towards perfection that will manifest in much better conditions from the year 2000 onwards. But at present, there is a strong struggle between good and evil, between the positive and the negative, since the lower is putting up a lot of resistance and refuses to withdraw definitively. The other polarity, the sinister force, defends itself tooth and nail so as not to be expelled from the planet, for it knows that this is its last battle. It works in a very subtle way and uses human beings who serve it unconsciously or consciously. They are forces launched from the fourth dimension, astral plane, egregores or mental creations and suggestions. Their tactics are varied, and when they see that someone reaches more light than usual, they try to prevent it. This is not even perceived because there are very few who know about these things. People interested in witchcraft, psychism, spiritualism, Santeria, etc. are easy instruments of the lower astral and become entangled in this plot that disturbs their own lives and the lives of others. The other polarity tries to alienate the sincere student. It is common for it to try to interfere with him, but if he is forewarned, none of this has any power. Second reason. The second important reason is the opposition of one's own personality, or lower self, human self, which fears losing all its power, the dominion it has had for so many centuries to direct the life of the incarnated person on earth. Upon entering a higher path of light, where time is no longer wasted, the personality knows that it is in danger of being liquidated and opposes this with all its might. One of its tactics is to distract and alienate the student and prevent him from attending the talks. Once the student enters into this teaching, he begins to give the command to the divine presence or higher self to rise up and come out of the lower. Then the personality becomes frightened. There are also other minor interferences arising from lack of perseverance, lack of willpower, and lack of discipline. The student is still weak spiritually and must strengthen himself lest he lose the treasure he has found. If he does not value it, the law will send him away to learn a lesson. Generally then, he returns to suffer again and plunges into what he had left behind. It is not possible to go backwards spiritually, but stagnations occur and stop you in your tracks. Spiritual evolution is like climbing a mountain. He who stops to contemplate the beauty of the landscape, the flowing water and the singing of the birds, does not go as straight to his goal as he who continues without interruption all the way. One must be alert and not allow any interference to paralyze or impede the great goal. For Lesson 23, we will learn about the higher planes of metaphysical light. The teachings of the Saint-Germain Brotherhood, popularized and expanded by Connie Mendez, come directly from the octave planes of light, where the ascended masters of the White Brotherhood live. They were mostly given by the ascended master Saint-Germain, who is the leader of the New Age since 1954, when the so-called Age of Aquarius began. Saint-Germain gives his teachings to raise the consciousness of the children of the earth. But many years ago, in 1945, through Connie Mendez, Juana Maria de la Concepcion, as the Masters of Light called her, this beloved master sent a deep and simple Christian metaphysical teaching of a high level to the physical plane. All the other masters of the white hierarchy have this power, because Saint-Germain is in charge of the spiritual destiny of the earth for the next 2,000 years. This is because the planet is run by cosmic cycles that last 2,000 years and are led by a different master of wisdom each time. During the last 2,000 years, the Pistis era, Jesus taught what we now call Christianity. But since everything has to keep going up, Saint-Germain is in charge of the next 2,000 years, which are the Violet Ray era. There is more to the metaphysical teaching we share than just the great books written by Connie Mendez. It has been slowly coming through channels and the masters of wisdom that make up the White Brotherhood. Channels are sensitive, highly spiritual beings who can pass on information if they are properly trained and looked after. Connie Mendez spiritually started the Saint-Germain Brotherhood in Caracas in 1945, which was the start of the movement. But he had been working for a long time to spread this teaching through talks, conferences, training guides, and personally overseeing the work. The masters have always spoken through channels, especially Saint Germain and Master Jesus, since they are both part of the great work. For 2,000 years, before Jesus and during the age of Aries, it was Moses' job to teach and raise the level of the masses. There is nothing psychic about this. We want to make it clear that this is not spiritualism. It is something higher. The channels are not mediums. They do not go into trances or lose consciousness, and they do not connect with the astral plane at all. Instead, they connect with the higher planes of the octave light of the ascended masters. There is nothing psychic about this work, and it doesn't go against the sacred law of free will. Saint Germain always watches over and oversees his work, so to speak, with the person who was called Connie Mendez in real life. There is already a lot of fruit from Connie Mendez's work. When someone holds one of these unique and simple books, the high vibration in them wakes them up spiritually. Then, by the law of vibration, they are put in the movement to realize and practice the teaching in everyday life, and to grow even more. Connie Mendez's books are like seeds that are planted in the world and always bear fruit. Connie did a great job. She came into the world with a clear mission for South America and the world, to teach, spread, and make popular the teaching of Master Saint Germain on a deep and simple level. Connie Mendez had teachers like Emmett Fox, who started the biblical movement called Unity, and Guy Ballard, who made the teaching of Master Saint Germain popular through the use of the sacred name I Am and the magical violet flame of transmutation. Emmett Fox went further than this master because he flew higher and went beyond the biblical beginnings, since Unity only accepts the Master Jesus and not the ascended masters of the White Brotherhood. After that, Connie Mendez talked to the Prince of Liberty Bridge, who explained that Master Saint Germain was the avatar of the New Age. At this point, in the US, direct instruction came from Saint Germain and all the ascended masters before the Saint Germain movement started in Caracas. The goal of the masters of the ascended hierarchy was to bring together North and South America into a single spiritual block to help Earth reach her rightful ascension. Once the teaching was solidified, Connie Mendez got direct instruction from Master Saint Germain for 2 years in a row without any middlemen, since he had already mastered his esoteric abilities and extrasensory sensitivity. The Master then sealed her chakras to protect her from the psychic plane, the astral world, any outside danger, as well as interferences from her own personality and from disincarnates. This is a safety measure that all people on the human plane are supposed to follow, so they are not interrupted. For more information on the teaching's esoteric roots, Connie Mendez talks about Enoch, who was the father of Methuselah and ascended to the planes of light in ancient times. The remains of a very old book were found in England by an English archbishop, which contains the knowledge of the 7 laws that govern the universe, mainly the law of mentalism. Connie calls Enoch the father of metaphysics, but he was also known as Hermes Trismegistus in Greece, Thoth in Egypt, and Cadmus in Phoenicia. Lesson 24. I practice inner and outer silence. If silence means to be silent on the outside, then controlling the power of the word in order to speak well and correctly is a very commendable virtue. You know that the word is a powerful decree that always manifests itself externally. You give an order that must be fulfilled. It is a sin of omission to stay silent when something should be said because you don't care, are too lazy, are afraid, or are having bad luck. This sin means that you should have stepped in to clear something up, changed a situation for the better, or defended someone but didn't because you stayed silent. As a result, someone will not defend him in the future when it hurts him the most, and he will also be ignored by the karmic court. Plus, he will have to answer for all the things he didn't say at the end of his physical life. Staying quiet out of selfishness and self-interest doesn't help either. If someone makes money by staying quiet, that silence will one day work against them. Staying quiet because you aren't sincere or brave enough to change things is bad for everyone. It's the weakness and lack of resolve of those who avoid their problems. And being discreet is okay because it shows that they have self-control and good feelings. But they also say that he who is silent, so they will immediately accept this silence. Silence for wisdom and prudence is highly recommended because it is not a good idea to talk to other people about what you are going to do or what you want to do because of their doubts, fears, insecurity, negativity, and skepticism. What they say about your project, especially if it's full of negative comments, will hurt you a lot, making it harder to do what you really wanted to do, changing your mood, and maybe even pushing it away. It's best to keep quiet until everything has come together and be firm so that you don't get let down by what other people say. Other people's comments annoy, impede, and stop action because they are always added to add fuel to the fire. We should be quiet about our beliefs in front of people who aren't interested in this path and can't understand it. This will help us avoid ridicule, sarcasm, verbal aggression, fears, and other negative emotions that are hard to contact. People come to us by vibrational affinity, so we don't have to look for them. They find us. We only give information to those who sincerely ask for it and show genuine interest. Someone who stays quiet and listens gets a lot of benefits because the person who runs over his words without meaning to leaves his soul bare and says everything without wanting to. Not only does one get useful information, but one also gains wisdom by letting others talk. Someone who talks a lot and brags gets little and usually lies by exaggerating. If words could be gold, we would say that silence is silver. As the saying goes, everything returns to the source from which it was created. If a metaphysician finds himself in a place where people are criticizing, he will first stay silent and not join in the conversation. He will then try to stay calm and peaceful so that he is not affected by the criticism. Finally, he will rise above the situation through a decree or metaphysical treatment. As this, I do not accept this, neither for myself nor for them, because it is not the truth. I remain serenely at peace. I invoke the law of forgiveness and the violet transmuting flame to dissolve this misqualified energy. I remain serenely at peace. I am divine order here, and none of this disturbs me. Beloved presence, strengthen me. Thank you. It may happen that, in spite of this, you do not control yourself because you are so new to this path. If you become nervous and restless, if you don't know what to do, the best thing to do is to leave the field and leave politely, leaving the criticism where it was. Otherwise, you will get a headache and feel bad because you are no longer in vibrational affinity with those people. Those who show true evolution are known by the correct use of the word. There are people who boast of being very wise philosophically, but speak disastrously and do not understand or have not realized the law of mentalism. We already know that he who does not know or practice the law of mentalism does not advance a single step on the spiritual or material path. He only succeeds in stuffing his intellect with external or internal knowledge that he does not use and remains stagnant at its basis. The intellect is only a data file, a servant, and will never be a master. If we want to advance spiritually, we must not give it too much power. Lesson 25. I calm down and enter into my inner silence. Inner silence is very necessary to advance on the path of one's own spiritual realization. We must learn to be quiet, to relax, and to silence the thought of the things outside that shout so much and demand so much attention. In this way, in the stillness of the physical self, we will self-control our thoughts, and feeling at peace, we will begin to perceive the truth that is within. Thus, contact is established with the divine power. The noise and din of what is outside keep people asleep in unconsciousness, caught in the delusion of the senses and material attainment. Therefore, they are blind who do not see, and deaf who do not hear. Blind who do not see, and deaf who do not hear. Their values are distorted and soon collapse, sometimes giving a hard blow to the human part in an attempt to make it react. We already know that it is necessary to dedicate a certain amount of time daily to the practice of contemplation, even if it is at least 10 minutes, to learn to enter into silence, from where one will emerge strengthened in health, vitality, and greater things. Within is the power and the true knowledge. Louisiana, prodigious source to solve any situation, problem, or need. Knowing how to calm down and remain serene in critical moments of difficulties and shocks is a magic key to success, because it opens the doors to energy and divine power instead of closing them, as it usually happens when a person gets irritated, explodes in anger, gets upset, restless, nervous, in shock, or pessimistic. What he will then achieve is to charge himself with black energy, as if poisoned, and act in a way similar to a magnet to attract to himself all the bad, the disturbing things that will bother him. Whoever wants to free himself from suffering and live happily must control himself and maintain peace. The stillness of the human being, entering into silence, is not a fruitless passivity on the outside, for one will not spend hours meditating. One will go to the source to seek understanding, power and strength, to contact the Divine Presence Father. I am, instead of resorting only to outside help. When he wants to resolve his difficulties, once he has contacted the inner power, he will go to the outside to resolve his issues and live with greater well-being. For the outside is also necessary, since we are in the world to act and learn. In the silence of the interior come all the answers, and we obtain a guide that avoids making mistakes, falling into serious difficulties and errors. Inspiration. Painters, musicians, writers and artists know that their inner God, higher self, directs them towards the perfect achievement through the so-called inspiration. This is a way to enter into silence, to learn to listen to the inner voice without the need for words. But for this it is necessary to have peace, to have harmony of feelings. Any external discord, displeasure or problem cuts off communication with the Divine Master, I Am, or individual Father. When a painter, writer or artist is determined to create beauty only with his human part and the effort of his outer will, closing himself to what is inside, the result is very poor, very mediocre, because only the inner power is capable of creating what is superior, what is really worthwhile. If you read a book, you have to enter into silence to know what it says. In the same way, if you want to hear your inner divine Christ presence, to contact its power for your own benefit, you have to enter into silence, to silence your human part, so that it does not disturb and let you hear. Learn to be alone. Not everyone knows how to be alone. To find the stillness to read, listen to music, meditate, or create. For many people, feeling physically alone is annoying and unbearable, so they continually seek the company of others. There are also those who are very lonely, always closed in on themselves, and therefore shy away from others. The extremes are never good, because they unbalance the balance of peace. The best thing is the middle ground, to live in society normally, but also to look for certain moments to be alone with well-being and joy. Learning to listen to oneself without falling into recriminations or censures towards oneself is very good. It is also necessary to know how to isolate oneself, to meditate in any place centered on the internal, without being disturbed by the noise of the outside, to place oneself in the divine presence. Making a call to its power is a magnificent and brief meditation. Even if you are on the street, at work, on the bus or anywhere, contact with nature, going out for a day of rest in the countryside or in the mountains, and feeling relaxed, there is a good therapy on the way to find oneself and find peace. In this case, do not look for noisy places like crowded beaches where music is played loudly through loudspeakers and personal radios are left everywhere. In these places, there is no real silence. In addition, sun that is too strong for tanning, received from the front and in a passive way, makes the body work too hard to protect itself or causes health problems. It is better to receive the sun gently between the branches of trees while walking, rather than to endure its powerful rays. The silence of the nature helps to meditate and puts in contact with the superior in an easy way. In these quiet places of the field and of the mountain, there are no interferences, and everything leads smoothly towards the silence of the internal. Spiritual experiences. It is good to keep about these experiences before outsiders who do not understand them and are not interested in them. In conversations, an exception can be made in this regard to strengthen others and give confidence in the truth of the teaching. Each person has his own experiences, which are never the same as those of others, so comparison could disenchant or cause one to distrust oneself. The doubts of other minds, even if they are silent, are not beneficial either. Let us know how to keep silent on the path of our own spiritual realization. Lesson 26. Forgiveness and Forgetfulness. Generally, the concept of forgiveness is a religious principle of good morals infiltrated in the minds to behave well, but this turns out to be insufficient in practice. Religion says to forgive and does not teach the reasons and why, so it is rarely practiced. It is not very convincing to say that we should forgive for the sake of forgiveness, since human nature in itself is very resistant to it when something has been wronged. However, it is true we must forgive, not just because, but to free ourselves from calamities and misfortunes. The reasons for forgiveness are many and undoubtedly very beneficial. There are people who, after having been hurt, insulted or wronged, remain in a vengeful, resentful and ill-willed attitude towards others, constantly remembering what was done to them. Since they have not forgiven, they are continually tormented by the idea of returning the wrong received, believing that taking revenge is the just and right thing to do. However, this mental attitude of returning evil for evil in equal measure greatly disturbs life, robs inner peace, causes great discomfort, irritates, unsettles, and can even trigger serious illness. This happens because energy qualified in hatred, irritability and violence always returns to its source, wreaking havoc in one's own body, business and personal affairs. It will never go well in life for one who harbors a feeling of resentment and ill will toward others, regardless of just or unjust causes. In this, there is no possibility of avoiding it, unless one changes one's mental attitude and, through self-conscious forgiveness, diverts the return current of negative energy. When one forgives sincerely and the feeling is at peace, one avoids the personal catastrophes that come silently. It is not enough to renounce revenge, resentment, and remain in an indifferent and passive attitude, because it is necessary to burn the hornet's nest that one has created oneself and scare away the sparks so that they disperse as far as possible. None of this can be done without true and authentic forgiveness, not only silent, but also expressed to the one who feels the enmity. "Don't be afraid of me anymore," he must be told. "I forgive what you did to me. It's good for me too, so I'm doing it for you too. I know it is not good for me to hate." Forgiveness includes not only serious things, but also small offenses and common annoyances. One should always forgive for this very reason, because this attitude is of great benefit to him. If you say to another, "You will pay for it," and put it into practice, you do not know what misfortune and misfortunes will befall you. Moreover, you poison yourself mentally and fill yourself with uncontrolled rage, with continual startling, by which you open the door to entities of the lower astral who can influence you to disturb you and make things even worse. Every human being must learn to love at all costs. This is the lesson that the Master Jesus came to teach almost 2,000 years ago, and still very few have understood it. If you move in the field of the inferior and destructive, it is that same destruction that you wish for others that will fall upon you, to teach you to keep your feelings in harmony and not to wish for others what you do not want to happen to you. You know that now man is a creator and must learn to control, in the good, all this tremendous potential. The bad only comes as a consequence of ignorance. He who knows does not violate the laws that govern life, does not fall into abysses. Forgiveness opens the doors of inner power and makes it possible for the divine Christic presence to assist you in elevating your life and your personal world. Without forgetting, there is no forgiveness possible. Many sincerely believe they have forgiven and say so, but then spend time remembering in detail what others did to them in the past or present. If that detailed memory persists, it is evident that they have not known how to forgive, because true forgiveness carries with it the forgetting of grievances and injustices, of all that is the cause of hatred and resentment. If someone says, "I forgive, but I do not forget what has been done to me," he is only making a play on words, because then no forgiveness can be manifested. The benefits of forgiveness. Forgiveness benefits more the one who gives it than the one who receives it, because the hated one is sometimes not even interested in being forgiven, while the one who forgives obtains the greatest advantages, which are the following. He improves his health, puts his life in peace, harmonizes his feelings, and finds tranquility. He also frees himself from the suffering of falling into problems and difficulties, and frees himself from a future karma that will torment him later. He lightens his emotional burden and feels relieved, because discontent and ill will towards others embitter his life. For all this, he recovers joy and well-being, and also closes the doors to entities of the lower astral that could bother him before, by putting himself in a vibratory tone in tune with them. And although unconsciously he ignores it, the one who hates and has ill will towards others, the one who wants to take revenge with that "I will pay," generates bad vibrations and rushes into the abyss of bad luck, health problems, family, business, etc., since all the hatred is returned in suffering. There are people who have been paralyzed by so much hatred, Parkinson's diseases, by disturbing their own health so much, they walk faster towards the change called death, unless they avoid it in time. It is necessary to learn to forgive, because it is not easy, and it is one of the most serious experiences that human life faces. It should not be an act forced or imposed by others, by principles and dogmas, but a gesture of one's own decision and understanding freely expressed. Lesson 27. I understand and practice higher consciousness. To elevate the thought to be able to free oneself quickly from problems and difficulties, it is necessary to understand things in an elevated way, which will give the necessary tolerance to forgive and be at peace. From below and looking at situations closely, everything is small, and a clash of opinions or actions can occur. One must always go up in order to have a wider horizon before one's eyes, and thus be able to understand things better. When one climbs a tower, a mountain, or looks down from an airplane, one realizes the immense panorama that can be seen. From there, and the higher one climbs, the wider one finds it. It is the same with the realities of life, which are better understood and more easily resolved if one knows how to elevate thought and feeling with a higher understanding. In the difficult situation of forgiving those who have offended or wronged us, this higher understanding is more necessary. But he who is a student of metaphysics has the knowledge that elevates him to a higher form of understanding and realization, for truth frees you from all that is lower. And if someone has offended, hurt, or wronged you, think that this happens because of ignorance and because the evolutionary level of that person does not allow him to go beyond. As you know, there is the law of cause and effect, by which each one reaps what he gives to others. Therefore, one should not worry too much about what others do, but try to do well with one's own life, because only one's own actions will have to be accountable before the karmic court of material existence. To avoid hatred and criticism of others, it is better to think like this: what you do and how you behave is not my business. That is your business. About true forgiveness, the most important thing is to feel it and realize it internally. If it is not easy to express it in words to the person you forgave, or you cannot, do not worry too much, because it is enough to consent to it, and thus you have already freed yourselves from the burden by which it worked. Do not put yourselves on the same level in conflicting situations of problems and difficulties with others. You have to avoid frontal confrontations, because it is not convenient to answer insult for insult and blow for blow. Whoever puts himself on the same level as the inferior is always very prejudiced. Imagine what it would be like to stand in the middle of the field with open arms to face a herd of wild horses in violent race. One would be left on the ground, all bruised, kicked, and seriously wounded if one has not lost one's life. Instead of proceeding in this way, it would be wiser to climb a tree and, from the height of its branches, watch the wild horses go by. The one who is a spectator and has been able to protect himself from evil is a destructive energy, dark and dense, which hits and liquidates everything in its path. One must move away from that current and let it pass quietly underneath, for which it is enough to elevate the thought by means of some metaphysical decree or treatment. It is necessary to be serene, not uncontrolled, then to say, I do not accept this because it is not the truth. I do not want it, nor am I interested in it, and I rise above this state. Beloved presence, I call you here to action, and I invoke the divine order to manifest graces. Forgive yourself. This is very important to live in peace and not to fall into difficulties. If one makes mistakes and commits errors, why accuse and recriminate oneself? Forgive yourself every time, without remorse or recriminations of any kind. Never call yourself a fool, stupid, imbecile, or any of those things that many people often say to themselves. What an imbecile I am, what an animal, beware that I am a brute, and others, all that is, engraved in the subconscious and will return as a reflex when you least expect it, with serious consequences, because you will behave that way on any occasion without being able to control it. A feeling of self-pity or pity towards oneself is not good either, because it weakens and diminishes without fixing things at all. Cleanly reason your mistake and convenient the law of forgiveness. This law has been put at our service to solve, in good and in perfection, any problem or unpleasant situation, past or present, from which we want to get out. If the law of forgiveness is not invoked, nothing can be fixed positively, since the forgiveness of all the mistakes we have committed is necessary to receive the necessary assistance from the divine presence and the ascended master planes of light that help us. After invoking it and forgiveness, the consuming violet flame is called, so that this powerful energy transmutes and changes in a positive way everything that disturbs the great love of Saint Germain for this planet, and the law of universal mercy have allowed this to happen quickly, as a powerful help to regenerate this world of calamities and misfortunes created by failure and ignorance, by the misuse of life and personal free will. Whoever invokes the law of forgiveness and the violet flame with tenacity and perseverance can consume all the mistakes, the bad creations of the past, and be free. A broad vision of things, looking at things with narrowness and limitation, sticking to them, creates mistakes and problems, because closed-mindedness obstructs the clear vision. It is necessary to put aside personalistic passion and look at things from above, with objectivity. Whoever lives too close to others and trusts them ends up abusing them without realizing it. If you only look at an ant, you will never be able to understand an elephant because of myopia. But if you look from the back of an elephant, you may no longer be interested in any ant because the small has lost value and you ignore it. Remember that understanding comes after the broad view of things, and that without understanding, there can be no forgiveness. Much suffering and hardship can be avoided with that broad understanding which gives the superiority of knowledge. Lesson 28. The happiness that is in me is not the same for everyone in the transitory world in which we live. There is no clear and definite concept of what happiness is, for while some believe that it lies in certain conditions of economic well-being and family peace, others consider that falling in love and marrying the loved one constitutes the fullest happiness that this world can offer. For a child, happiness may lie in getting the favorite toy he or she has longed for, but for an adult, the reasons for happiness are not so easy and are very different. A politician will see happiness in gaining power in a high and important position. For those suffering from scarcity, happiness consists in having money and becoming rich. Some women want to be beautiful and to be admired, many seek their perfect love, and so on. For all these reasons, we see that what we call happiness has many nuances and forms, since what gives happiness to some does not even interest others. Man seeks happiness because there is an inner longing for elevation and perfection. As he is always mistaken in believing that everything is outside, he experiences in his constant search through the external, money, sex, emotions, power, fun, having prestige and fame, standing out, dominating, imposing himself on others, reaching positions and honors, being admired and acquiring material goods, and so on. Again and again he sees how illusory and ephemeral this type of happiness is, and sees that, after reaching it, he may cease to be interested in what seemed to be the supreme happiness. What is happiness? Happiness can look like many different things. People who look for it outside, in things like a house, a car, a bank account, etc., only catch it briefly because the outside world is unstable and illusionary. After getting what they really wanted and working hard for, they may get tired, lose interest, and forget about it, because happiness is not in things outside of ourselves. You can get a lot of money, but you can also lose it suddenly. A passionate love can grow cold and lose its appeal. Things that last in this constantly changing world are few and far between. Everything tends to die, because that is the law of dense matter on the physical plane. Happiness isn't found in material things and feelings. It's an inner state that very few people are able to reach. It has to do with peace, balance, and a certain amount of inner progress. You can reach this state by connecting with the divine being and the higher levels of light, whether you're aware of it or not. Pure love and generous selflessness are also close to this state, which is called happiness. For example, mothers and wives who sacrifice for their families, doctors and teachers who are very dedicated to their jobs, and teachers who do their jobs well and work with love, thinking of giving more than receiving. These people enjoy a spiritual satisfaction that is a lot like what we might call happiness on earth. But, on the other hand, these people can have setbacks, problems of other kinds in their lives, and not reach full happiness. The pursuit of happiness has many paths. Each person chooses according to his tastes and preferences. The longing to be happy always persists. Although man feels disappointed by the experiences he has lived, there is no sublime condition of happiness on earth, but there is a certain well-being that is somewhat close and similar. It happens this way because this world is a school of the cosmos, where we come to learn in a hard and difficult way, and to pay past debts that are pending karmas generated by oneself some time ago. However, by divine mercy and grace, each person goes through some happy conditions in his life that give him strength and encourage him to continue to fulfill the rest of the hard task. Who has not known some spark of that divine well-being that comes with an illusion, an unexpected event, a hope fulfilled at least once? No one lacks that experience to attain happiness in its perfect condition. It is necessary to free oneself from all that is inferior, from that wheel of births and deaths, with the attainment of ascension to the spiritual planes of light. There, life and activity continue, but at higher levels and in such a high form that we cannot even imagine this wonder. When imperfection is overcome, all suffering and limitations disappear. How does it get lost? Man is an endless being made of light and energy. The thick material part that he has to learn to master is what makes him unhappy. This is all part of his lower self, or personality. It's especially how he uses energy and life that will cause him a lot of pain in the future. If someone enjoys happiness while being selfish and bossy, taking advantage of others, they will realize how short-lived it is. For example, a man who marries a beautiful woman and then tyrannizes her with possessive eagerness, seeing her as his property, makes her put up with as much as she can, and then runs away. Similarly, the children leave their cocky and domineering father as soon as they can, ending the family welfare. People who are passive and conformist rarely feel happy. This is because you have to sow before you can reap. As the saying goes, he who sows winds, reaps storms. By practicing the eternal present, which means doing good things today, we can start to sow happiness for the days to come. If something unexpectedly bad happens to us, it's because we sow something bad in the past, which could be in a previous life or this one. Giving thanks is important, and we should thank God every day for all the gifts and blessings we enjoy. Often, we don't realize how lucky we are until we lose something important to them. Many people suffer and feel unhappy about what they lack or what they have lost, but they can find comfort in what they still have. Take some paper and pencil and write down everything you have. Family, even if there are fights. A house, even if it's small. A job, even if you haven't done as well as you would have liked. Friends, health, and so on. Think of all the people who don't have these things. When you write down all the good things in your life, you'll realize you're not so unhappy after all, and you'll start to be thankful. Every day say, "Thank you, Father, for the benefits I enjoy." This is Lesson 29, Scientific Prayer, by Connie Mendez. Chapter 5 of Connie Mendez's book, Metaphysics Within Everyone's Reach, explains the easiest way to pray and ask for what we want, so that the Father gives it to us. The key is to put our problems in the hands of the Father so that he can solve them with his infinite wisdom and power. First, we need to be clear about what we want, firmness and determination when asking. Don't change the direction of the request and then want something else. You have to keep asking. The right words for this formula are, in harmony for the whole world, according to the divine will, under grace, and in a perfect manner. But first, be clear about what you want by saying, "I want this in harmony for the whole world," and so on. You will only have to do this treatment once. Whenever you want to do it again, just say, "Thank you, Father, for this is already granted, and I am waiting for it." The violet flame can erase the recordings of fear and doubt that are inside you. If you do things out of curiosity or to see if they work, they won't work either. A joyful expectation is always good because it brings joy and hope. You must be aware not to miss opportunities, not to let them pass you by, and to recognize them when they come up. You know that you have God in you, who is the divine presence. I am the Father who has been taking care of you for all time. He wants only good and perfection for you. that you are happy and have everything you need. The Father never punishes, but is always full of love and understanding. He wants you to move forward and overcome, and He gives you all the help you ask for, because the great law will not allow it otherwise, because of evolution and free will. Lesson 30. Setting up the divine order. I believe in a very important metaphysical principle that, if you follow it one step at a time, will make your life more harmonious: the divine order. Realizing and understanding this truth frees people from suffering and problems, because when you call on a spiritual law, the lower levels obey and adjust. What is the divine order? It is the harmonious alignment of all things with the truth of God, which is perfection itself. The truth sets us free, and we must feel and practice it in order to live in that truth of the good and perfect, which is the duty and natural thing for every student of the light. People who understand the divine order are at peace with themselves and others. They are happy with their job and don't add to family, work, or social conflict. They don't have fears, anxieties, or depression, and they don't see things as tragic or get down when things go wrong. The divine order is to be at peace with your children, spouse, relatives, friends, and acquaintances, to be healthy, and not to waste time suffering needlessly, because there is much to learn and do. Someone who spends all of their time crying becomes paralyzed and stuck. The divine order must be overcome. To get there, you have to make a choice, have strong willpower, take action, and have courage. You can only find divine order after going through unhappy situations of chaos and suffering, which are hard but necessary lessons. You have to fix and straighten out everything that is wrong, including things that are wrong or mistaken, and things that cause suffering, fear, or chaos. If you can't find divine order, you have to make it harmonious. That is divine order. It is enough to say, feeling it, and with faith, "Here is the divine order, whatever happens, no matter how disturbing it may be." Don't accept that appearance and declare it divine. You have to invoke the divine order in any need that you need, whether it is manifesting lack, limitation, whether it is lack of money, lack of affection, lack of work, and so on. Declare the divine order to ease pain, protect someone, start the car if the battery doesn't work, before a fight we're seeing, or whenever problems or difficulties arise. Say, "Here is divine order," and change situations that don't seem to have a way out. It's important to close your mind to the negative, not to accept it, and to declare perfection in everything, because that's where the truth of God lies. Remember that the divine order doesn't just show up without any work, or sometimes. You have to be determined and persistent. If no one cleans the house, it will stay dirty, because everything has to be proposed and then carried out. The divine presence works through us, but we have to decree and demand it, because we have free will. If your home, work, finances, health, or any other part of your life is not in line with goodness and perfection, which is the truth, start today to decree divine order with faith and determination. Harmonizing things takes more or less time, depending on how much strength and power you gave to the unhappy or unhappy, which is not the truth. You need to free yourself. The metaphysics of the great Brotherhood of Germain teaches how to free oneself from sad and unhappy situations. Someone who stays tormented by other people's will does not live in truth. It is not good to give up, because God always wants the best, the most beautiful, the most harmonious, and perfect for us. It is only man who falls into misfortune on his own due to ignorance, and bad things happen in his life. It's a great blessing to be able to live in divine order. We need to start living in truth today. Don't put it off until tomorrow. Every person, no matter how humble, is part of the universal harmony, and there is no divine order in the universe as a whole. It is possible to abuse life, vital energy, holy breath, free will, and creative powers. But people don't do that because there is a very high price to pay in suffering and happiness. The beloved Master, Prince and Lord of the Divine Order, is an ascended Master who resides in the high spheres of light. You may call on him to help you with issues and difficulties that call for divine order. Maintaining peace is the key to success because it makes the disorder and flaws we want to get rid of easier to go away.